Chapter 606. Venerable Yuanri and Venerable Tsongjun were both experts who had comprehended force. As for Venerable Firmament and Swordmaster Bai Hung, they had already stepped into the divine realm. However, if a peak lawful embodiment of heaven and earth expert wanted to step into the divine realm, in addition to force and law comprehension, there was another important factor, which was the innate divine charm. Without the innate divine charm, one couldn't condense the domain origin and manifest the power of the domain. It was like a prominent divine realm expert. Even if he had the bloodline and soul of a divine beast, if he didn't have enough true chi, he still couldn't manifest the divine realm. However, for all lawful embodiment of heaven and earth experts, the innate divine charm that condensed the domain origin was the most precious. If one wanted to get these treasures, one could either buy them from the Chaos Treasure Pavilion, dig up an ancient cave mansion by luck, or go to the outer sea tens of millions of kilometers away to kill divine beasts. The Chaos Treasure Pavilion's products were like a drop in the bucket, and the ancient cave mansion was completely dependent on luck. The only safe way was to go to the outer sea to kill divine beasts, but it was too dangerous. Without the cooperation of two divine realm experts, one or two adult divine beasts had to be left behind every time they killed them. If more than 10 divine realm experts were sent to the outer sea at once, their forces would definitely be empty. Because of these harsh conditions, Venerable Tsongjun and Venerable Yuanri clearly had the foundation to break through to the divine realm, but they still couldn't truly step into the divine realm. Even if they occasionally obtained some innate divine charm, they would contribute it to Venerable Zhu so that he could reach the peak of the domain origin realm as soon as possible, step into the insightful emptiness realm, and even shatter the vacuum realm. I'll go first. On the training field, Venerable Tsongjun was the first to speak. Okay, Tsongjun, I wonder if you have a new understanding of your earth force after all these years. Venerable Firmament and Venerable Yuanri said with a smile. Swordmaster Bai Hung also stood on the side. Venerable Tsongjun and the others could be called her seniors, although their realms were not at the same level. Since Venerable Tsongjun had spoken, she naturally had to be modest. Pakui boy, I'll use all my strength to stimulate my earth force now. Feel it well. Okay. Xinghui nodded and stared at Venerable Tsongjun. His spirit rose to the extreme. As Venerable Tsongjun's aura, Venerable Tsongjun in front of him seemed to have transformed into a giant with a radius of a few hundred kilometers. His chi Tsongjun in front of him seemed to have transformed into a giant with a radius of several hundred kilometers. With his chi's chi, he seemed Tsongjun in front of him seemed to transformed into a god, a with a radius. And Tianjun seemed to have turned of a. And Tsongji as it seemed to be Azun's, and it had to be of A's realm. Be careful, Venerable Tsongjin shouted. In the next moment, the earth force that had merged with him seemed to be controlled by an invisible giant hand and crashed down on Xinghui. In an instant, the area around Xinghui seemed to be pressed down by a towering mountain. He could clearly feel the all-pervasive power continuously pressing down on his body. In just a breath's time, it had already reached the limit of what his body could bear. This power? Not good. Xinghui's expression changed. Venerable Tsongjun's force was all-pervasive and restrained him. Venerable Tsongjun had just stimulated this force, and it was about to seriously injure him. He had no choice but to shout loudly. His sword intent erupted, and a mighty and brilliant sword light rose up and illuminated the world. The powerful will disperse the force that Venerable Tsongjun was the main force and burn the power contained within it. Pakui boy, what are you? Seeing that Xinghui had actually dispersed his force, Venerable Tsongjun could not help but feel a little strange. Didn't he say that he would sense his force? Why did Xinghui disperse it when he had just started and his force had not fully erupted? Although the divine ability I derived is powerful, it comes at the cost of sacrificing my own defensive power. After the divine ability is derived, I can't even protect my body with Hunyuan. Venerable Songjun's force. I can't block it just by relying on my own body. Sing Hui smiled bitterly. At the cost of sacrificing your own defensive power? You can't even protect your body with Hunyuan? Venerable Songjun was slightly surprised. Then won't it be very dangerous when you're fighting with your opponent? Venerable Songjun, don't worry about this. Although the derivation of my divine ability will greatly reduce my defensive power, it will greatly increase my speed. Therefore, I can completely tear the enemy's attack apart before it arrives. It's just like the power of the domain of the Saint Stage giants. Although the power of the domain can be said to be all-pervasive and surging, if I can slash 12 times with great power in one breath, I can still cut the domain into a vacuum. Is that so? Venerable Songjun frowned. In that case, Pak Hui, use your own method to feel the mystery of force in the confrontation with Venerable Songjun's force. Venerable Songjun said, That's what I'm thinking. Okay, but you have to be a little light. Venerable Songjun, don't worry. Then let's continue. Venerable Songjun didn't waste any more time, and the heavy force of the earth erupted again. In the beginning, Venerable Songjun still used the force of the earth that he controlled to suppress Tsing Hui. However, every time the force of the earth descended on Tsing Hui's body, he would rely on his brilliant sword intent to disperse it. In a later stage, Venerable Songjun's competitive spirit seemed to have been aroused, and he directly landed beside Tsing Hui and integrated his own power into the force of the earth, causing his body to become a huge source of gravity. Under this force, it quickly exceeded the limit that Tsing Hui's sword intent could disperse. No matter how strong his sword intent was, it was only at the level of perfection after all. How could it be compared with this kind of true force? Mass will force is the integration of one's own will and external power, forming a kind of force of the heavens and earth. After the competition with Venerable Songjun ended, Tsing Hui understood something. His recovery characteristics were as high as the 10th stage, and his true chi recovery speed was extremely fast. Before long, he had already recovered to the peak, and then it was Venerable Yuanri's turn. After Venerable Yuanri, it was Venerable Firmament's turn and Swordmaster Bai Heng's turn. Venerable Firmament's and Swordmaster Bai Heng's forces had already integrated with their own domains. Even if they used it alone, it still far surpassed Venerable Yuanri's and Venerable Songjun's forces. Under this suppression, Tsing Hui naturally had a deeper understanding and comprehension of forces. How is it? Swordmaster Bai Heng stepped forward and asked with a smile. I've figured out the relationship between domains and forces. Tsing Hui said, I need to properly organize what I've learned today. As for the matter of the alliance between the two sects, I'll have to rely on Swordmaster Bai Heng. I'm not good with words, and I'll definitely be at a disadvantage if I discuss this matter with Venerable Firmament. However, Pak Hui, you've grown up thanks to Firmament. Now that you're the fourth sword master of our White Rainbow Sword sect, it doesn't matter if our White Rainbow Sword sect suffers a little loss. Swordmaster Bai Heng smiled. When Venerable Firmament saw this scene, how could he not understand that Swordmaster Bai Heng was doing Tsing Hui a favor? Obviously, she had deeply recognized the potential contained in Tsing Hui. She immediately said, Don't worry, our Firmament has already gone to the White Rainbow Sword sect to discuss the matter of the alliance with your White Rainbow Sword sect a few decades ago. We're naturally very sincere, and the final outcome of the discussion will definitely not disappoint your White Rainbow Sword sect. Then I can't wait. Venerable Firmament and Swordmaster Bai Heng said, and the two of them quickly left the training field with Venerable Yuanri. Only Tsing Hui and Venerable Songjun were left in the training field. Looking at Venerable Songjun who hadn't left, Tsing Hui couldn't help but look at him. Venerable Firmament, is there anything else you need to tell me? Indeed, there's something I want to discuss with you. Please speak, Venerable Firmament. I can see that in your heart, you're still biased towards our Firmament. Tsing Hui nodded. His growth was all thanks to the guidance of Venerable Firmament, Venerable Songjun, and Venerable Zhu Zhao. In addition, Venerable Firmament also attached great importance to him. Although he had entered the White Rainbow Sword sect and become the fourth sword master, if Firmament and the White Rainbow Sword sect really went to war for some reason, Tsinghui felt that he would most likely choose to stand on Firmament's side. What kind of alliance do you think is the most reliable? What kind of alliance is the most reliable? Tsinghui pondered for a moment. It's probably the same interests, the same position, and the same attitude. No. Venerable Tsang Zhen shook his head. An alliance brought about by interests and positions may be considered solid, but it can't be considered impregnable. It's just like a chamber of commerce among mortals. A manager who is hired with a lot of money may be cautious and conscientious, but he may not be willing to live and die with this chamber of commerce. At this point, Venerable Tsang Zhen's tone paused slightly. Only emotional fetters are the best way to tie people to the war chariot. Emotional fetters? Tsinghui was slightly taken aback. That's right. It's just like how we accidentally tied you to the war chariot of our Sky Dome sect. This is the power of emotions. Venerable Tsang Zhen means, don't you think that you and Sword Master Bai Hong can be called a golden couple, a match made in heaven? One can be called the most outstanding genius in the past 10,000 years. At such a young age, he cultivated to the divine realm and stood proudly at the peak of the divine wilderness, becoming an existence second only to the 10 strongest experts in the entire divine wilderness. The other is the first cultivator to awaken a supreme divine ability since the divine wilderness was shattered, completing an unprecedented feat in the past 10,000 years. A perfect match. If the two of you can walk together, Sky Dome and the White Rainbow Sword sect will become one family, and the relationship between them will be unbreakable. Me and Swordmaster Bai Hong? Tsinghui looked at Venerable Tsang Zhen and could not help but recall the short period of time he spent with Swordmaster Bai Hong. It was undeniable that the appearance of Swordmaster Bai Hong had indeed taken him by surprise. Tsinghui was also full of admiration for her, and he did have a good impression of her, but these were far from enough for the two of them to walk together. Moreover, what he needed to do now was to return to the world of Earth as soon as possible, reunite with his parents and family, see senior sister Jiang Ningji, and fulfill his promise to her. To him, he was just a passerby in this world. If he left something behind in this world, that would be irresponsible to Swordmaster Bai Hong. After a moment of silence, Tsinghui shook his head. This matter can't be done. What are you worried about? Venerable Tsang Zhen had seen countless people and naturally saw some clues. Tsinghui shook his head and did not say much. Seeing this, Venerable Tsang Zhen could not persuade him anymore and could only put the matter aside for the time being. Chapter 607. Rumble. Blazing waves of heat carried with them an aura that could incinerate the heavens and boil the seas, constantly spreading out in all directions. Even though the Sky Dome encampment's martial arts practice ground had been specially fortified and had been protected by powerful formations, it still shook as if it could be destroyed by this destructive force at any moment. This is my understanding of the Sword of the Sun. The direction I chose was not to fuse the two swords of the sun to produce the fusion effect you said. I directly used the Sword of the Sun as the foundation and changed the internal energy structure, transforming it into the Sword of the Sun. Although the consumption has increased a lot, with the help of the domain and the recovery ability of the 10th step, it can be smoothly displayed. It will not put too much of a burden on me. As the destructive blazing torrent gradually dissipated, in the endless flames, Sword Master Bai Hong, who looked spotless in a white robe, slowly walked out, explaining the various changes in his sword. Cause changes to occur within it. Complete the fusion process. Hearing Sword Master Bai Hong's words, Tsinghui had to admit that this was the difference in accumulation. Although he had cultivated the method of transforming his internal energy into virtual energy, and his degree of control over his internal energy was far beyond that of ordinary experts. But compared to those experts who had been immersed in the path of cultivation for hundreds of years, his foundation was still lacking. Only Sword Master Bai Hong could display the Sword of the Sun. If it was him, In the case of insufficient internal energy control, he could not directly transform the Sword of the Sun into the Sword of the Sun. In fact, I also have my own ideas about the next derivation of this swordsmanship, transforming the Sword of the Sun into the Sword of the Sun. After all, there is a transformation process. In a life and death battle, a moment of delay may lead to a completely different outcome of the final battle. In this case, the practicality of the Sword of the Sun is actually not much better than the Sword of the Sun. To solve this problem, I think we can choose to use the method of constructing the Sword of the Sun in advance to make up for this drawback. Construct the Sword of the Sun in advance? Yes. Construct the operation method of the Sword of the Sun in your own body. In this way, there is no need for the transformation process at all, and you can directly slash out the extremely powerful Sword of the Sun. But the only drawback is that the first sword you can choose to use when fighting with others is only the Sword of the Sun. If you encounter opponents who are unwilling to kill, you can't even control the strength of your sword. In other words, this is storing power. Storing power? Swordmaster by Heng's idea made Xing Hui's eyes light up. Yes, just like the Jindan, I've been researching how to create a second energy source similar to the Jindan in my body, specifically to store and construct the Sword of Sunburst. Although this step is not a problem, it is a little troublesome to completely integrate this energy source with the origin of the domain. And the most important thing in the divine realm is the domain. Having the domain and not being able to use it are two completely different concepts. Can't be integrated with the domain origin? Have you ever thought of using a divine weapon to carry that energy? Xing Hui thought of his extreme way of the sword and asked, "You should know how unstable the energy of the Sword of the Sun is. In my body, I can always keep an eye on it and maintain its stability. If I put in a divine weapon, no one can guarantee when it will completely explode. If I am not careful, I may even be blown to pieces." Swordmaster by Hung paused for a moment before continuing, "Unless I can obtain a divine sword with a sword spirit. Furthermore, the sword spirit itself must have a level 13 or even level 14 spirituality. Then, the sword spirit will be able to help me suppress the power of the Sword of the Sun, sword spirit. The sword will in Xing Hui's deep red sword could actually be called the embryonic form of a sword spirit. Its level was at level 12 or even level 13, but this embryonic form of the sword spirit had not formed a complete spirituality. It only had a vague consciousness and could not communicate with Xing Hui. It was still a long way from becoming a true sword spirit. In addition, there were also a large number of sword spirits in the Hidden Sword sect. Unfortunately, under the erosion of countless years, the spirituality of these sword spirits had long since dissipated. The strength of their spirituality was at most at the second or third level, which was not of much use. There will be a chance to obtain it. As Xing Hui said, there was a hint of regret in his eyes. It is a pity that the Chaos Treasure Pavilion does not sell any divine weapons. At most, they only have the materials to forge divine weapons. And those materials, which rely on the divine blessing technique to forge divine weapons, do not have any spirituality at all. To nurture a divine weapon full of spirituality is not easy. Swordmaster by Hung nodded. Although Swordmaster by Heng's idea was not of much use for the time being, but it pointed out a direction for Xing Hui. The sword spirit in his Scarlet Abyss sword had indeed yet to be fully developed, but once it was fully developed, the level of the sword spirit spirituality would be at least level 12, and most likely level 13. Even though it was unable to perfectly carry out his orders because it was not fully developed yet, he could borrow the power of the Scarlet Abyss sword's sword intent to suppress the power of the Sword of Sunlight within the Scarlet Abyss sword. He just needed to compress the energy of the Sword of the Sun. In this way, he could borrow the energy of the Sword of the Sun to continuously temper the Deep Red Sword, increasing the Deep Red Sword's resistance to the energy of the Sword of the Sun. On the other hand, he could constantly mobilize the power of the Sword of the Sun, which would have a significant effect on the spirituality of the Sword of the Sun. If all goes well, the number of Swords of Sunburst should increase from the previous 20 or so to 40 or so swords, Tsing Hui secretly judged. By the way, Tsing Hui, in order to ensure that the activation of the rainbow sword will minimize the damage to yourself, we still need to use the Sword of the Sun to nourish the rainbow sword. This process will take at least a month. During this period of nourishment, will you stay in Sky Dome's encampment, or will you come back with me to the Rainbow Sword sect? The situation in Sky Dome is not very peaceful. I will stay here for the time being. If anything happens, I will see if I can help. Good, then I will go back first. Yes, I have to thank you for the alliance with Sky Dome. Sword Master Bai Hung smiled faintly. The Masters of Sky Dome are very sincere about the alliance. I will bring the news back and let our Sword Masters discuss with the Masters of Sky Dome to announce the alliance between our two forces. I believe this will be of great help in stabilizing the situation in Sky Dome. Tsing Hui nodded. The two did not continue chatting and quickly went to do their own things. Next, the most important thing for Tsing Hui was to solve the problem of his physique. After seeing Sword Master Bai Hung off, Tsing Hui took advantage of the fact that he was still in Sky Dome's encampment to quickly collect many powerful sacred beasts with the help of Sky Dome's power. The sacred beast level was not high, below the 10th level, but they had to be alive. Tsing Hui wanted to use the 9 transformations of the true dragon to temper his body, and not to use the blood essence of sacred beasts to improve his cultivation. Naturally, he could not eat or refine sacred beast corpses. As one of the 10 chaotic organizations, Sky Dome's power was extraordinary. Tsing Hui entrusted this matter to Sky Dome. Within 3 days, 4 sacred beasts were captured and brought to Tsing Hui. Among the 4 sacred beasts, 1 was at the 8th level, 2 were at the 9th level, and 1 was at the 10th level. The power of blood essence in each sacred beast could be said to be surging many times stronger than that of a human being. Hidden Sword Venerable is still recovering. However, if he wants to wake up completely, he has to find Suffering Real God and force him to tell him about the soul-locking mystic skill that he left on Hidden Sword Venerable. Otherwise, he has to wait. Wait until Hidden Sword Venerable recovers and uses his own will to break free from the soul-locking mystic skill. Tsing Hui was leaning towards the first option. Who knew if Suffering True God's special mind-locking mystic skill would bring other harm to people? No one knew what would happen after 1 or 2 years. If he wanted to find Suffering True God and force him to tell him about the mind-locking mystic skill, he could not be too weak. At least, the strength of his physical body could not be on the verge of collapsing after slashing out the 6 swords of sunlight. Real Dragon 9 changes. Let me see how strong you can make me. Tsing Hui muttered to himself. In the next moment, he went into seclusion and tried his best to break through the Real Dragon 9 changes. At the end of the day, the 9 transformations of the true dragon was only a cultivation method equivalent to the realm of awakening to the never-ending realm. It was not too difficult for him to practice Green Ruins. Coupled with the fact that he was from Tianxiong, who fully supported his many requests, even though his body was limited to the 5 transformations of the true dragon, his cultivation could still progress by leaps and bounds. In less than half a month, he had broken through to the 6th change of Real Dragon 9 changes. After another month, he had reached the 7th change of Real Dragon 9 changes. Considering that the consumption of the Rainbow Sword was related to the time it took to nurture it, Tsing Hui asked someone to send a message to the Rainbow Sword sect. After delaying his trip to the Rainbow Sword sect for a period of time, he entered the 8th change of Real Dragon 9 changes again. At the 8th change, the effect of the sacred beast's flesh was indeed reduced. Tsing Hui had a lot of blood pattern grass in his hands. In addition, Tsing Hui had invited the alchemy master in Sky Dome, so the blood pattern grass, which was already extraordinary, was maximized. After cultivating the 7th change of Real Dragon 9 changes for a month, his Real Dragon 9 changes had broken through to the 8th change. Compared to before, the strength of my body has increased by almost 2 times. Tsing Hui felt the majestic power contained in his body. 8 changes of Real Dragon. In terms of the strength of his body, he was no longer inferior to a Class 8 ferocious beast. Perhaps he was still lacking compared to Class 8 sacred beasts and divine beasts. However, relying on the many god weapons and skills that human cultivators had mastered, killing ordinary Class 8 ferocious beasts and spirit beasts was a piece of cake. With the strengthening of my body, the burden on the light chasing divine power has decreased by a lot. Now, it's not a problem for me to slash out 10 sunburst swords in an instant. If I fight until my body collapses, I can even slash out 13 or even 14 sunburst swords. If an ordinary sacred beast doesn't burn their domain origin, it's impossible for them to block it. Xing Hui was very clear about his own strength. However, at this level, it might be possible to defeat the suffering true God, but it was still wishful thinking to beat the suffering true God into fear and make him feel the fear of death. After all, the reason why he was able to achieve such an outstanding result last time was mainly because the suffering true God looked down on him and was caught off guard by his divine ability, chasing light. Therefore, he still had to cultivate the 9th change of real dragon 9 changes. Chapter 608. Time flew by. Another 3 months passed. It took Xing Hui half a year to cultivate the 9 changes of the real dragon to the perfection of the 9 changes of the body refining technique, a realm that could not be improved. Compared to before, the physique of the 9 changes was much stronger. Although it still could not allow Xing Hui to madly slash out 40 sunburst swords in an extreme state, it was not a problem for him to slash out 20 sunburst swords. He had full confidence that with the 20 or so sunburst swords that were as fast as flowing light, no Saint Realm expert would be able to block his attacks in a direct confrontation, if he counted in the recovery from the backtrack technique. At this moment, he was really confident that he could kill a divine realm expert. Unfortunately, the highest realm of the 9 changes of the real dragon is the 9th change. As for the true dragon realm, there is no more. If I can cultivate to the true dragon realm, the number of sunburst swords that I can slash out will definitely increase again, and it will not be difficult to directly reach the limit of the Scarlet Sword. Xing Hui's eyes were somewhat regretful. It seemed that he could only think of a way to find a first-stage son of chaos and use the token of the realm of battle to try his luck. 100 Dao rhymes once. His heart ached at the thought of it. Lady Pak Hui. When Xing Hui stepped out of the courtyard where he had cultivated in seclusion, someone immediately came forward to greet him respectfully. Leader Firmament said that if you come out of seclusion, you can go directly to his mountain peak to have a chat with him. Firmament Master. Xing Hui nodded, tidied up a little, and then headed for the palace where Firmament Master lived. Walking in the Firmament Master's residence, Xing Hui could clearly feel the change of atmosphere in the Firmament Master's residence. The last time he and Sword Master Bai Hung came, the atmosphere in the Firmament Master's residence was oppressive. Everyone came and went in a hurry, looking dignified, but this time, although the dignified and worried look had not completely dissipated, it was undoubtedly much better than before. At least, Xing Hui could see a cheerful and energetic atmosphere in the crowd. It seems that the alliance between the White Rainbow Sword Sect and Firmament Master has greatly improved the morale. As Xing Hui spoke, he unknowingly arrived at the palace where Master Firmament was. When the guards at the entrance of the palace saw Xing Hui, they immediately invited him in. They didn't even care that Firmament Master was entertaining a guest. Obviously, this was Firmament Master's order. From this, one could see how much importance Firmament Master attached to Xing Hui. He had no choice but to treat Qing Su seriously. Even though Celestial Firmament had supported Qing Su before, the favor would run out sooner or later. Coupled with the fact that the White Rainbow Sword Sect was desperately trying to poach Qing Su, Master Celestial Firmament no longer dared to treat Qing Su like any other great expert with great talent. Pak Hui is here. Wait a moment. You can rest on the side. Firmament Master was currently discussing something with a few Almighties. When he saw Xing Hui, he still took the time to speak to him. This sentence naturally attracted the attention of the Almighties who were conversing with Firmament Master. In particular, The two Earth-level astronomical phenomenon experts looked at Xing Hui with a surprised gaze. Obviously, they were curious as to who could attract such attention from Firmament Master. Then it's settled. Firmament Master and Sword Shadow will work together to build an encampment outside the Soaring Cloud Sword Sect in the Shifeng mountain range. It will be the point of contact between our three forces. Good. This point of contact will completely unite us so that we won't have to fight separately. I, Tung Ching Feng, am here to thank Firmament Master and Wudong, Sword Monarch. Haha, Ching Feng, you don't have to do this. In the future, the encampment of our two forces will have to rely on your Soaring Cloud Sword Sect to take care of it. Of course, regarding the encampment, our Soaring Cloud Sword Sect will definitely arrange it properly. Tung Ching Feng said solemnly. Firmament Master then chatted with Tung Ching Feng and Wudong, Sword Monarch, for a while before asking someone to send them off. When these people left, Tung Ching Feng and Wudong, Sword Monarch, looked at Xing Hui with great interest. They seemed to be curious as to who this young man was and why they didn't have any detailed information about him. Pak Hui, you finished your cultivation? It seems that you've gained a lot? Firmament Master said with a smile as he gestured for Xing Hui to drink tea. Indeed, I've gained a lot. Xing Hui nodded. It seems that you're in a good mood. It's all right. The main thing is the alliance between Firmament Master, White Rainbow Sword Sect, and Sword Shadow. Sword Shadow? I heard you mention the encampment. Is the Sword intent planning to set up an encampment in the Infinite Wasteland domain? Yes, you also know that Sword Shadow's base camp is outside the Infinite Wasteland domain. As for which continent it is still a mystery. Under such circumstances, even if they are completely expelled from the Infinite Wasteland domain, as long as they hide in their base camp, they will still be able to maintain their Yuan Qi. As a result, although we have formed an alliance with Sword Shadow, we still don't have much confidence. After all, Sword Shadow can afford to lose, but we can't afford to lose. Now that they have set up an encampment in the Shifeng mountain range, although it's just a show of their attitude, for us, it's enough to share a lot of the pressure. Firmament Master said with a smile. It seems that Sword Shadow also understands that the situation is not optimistic. The alliance is no longer limited to talking. Xing Hui nodded. Sword Shadow's appearance could indeed share a lot of pressure for Firmament Master. Apart from this, I didn't expect Sword Shadow to take down the Soaring Cloud Sword Sect. Amazing. Soaring Cloud Sword Sect? Is this sect powerful? Powerful? Not really, but a long time ago, this sect was indeed powerful. Before it was destroyed, there were 3 divine realm giants in the sect, and it was one of the 3 sections. However, it was later destroyed by the Divine Path sect and replaced. The 3 divine realm experts were all killed in one day. Firmament Master said with a sigh. It was also because of that battle that we knew that the Divine Path sect was backed by the Heavenly Way. The 3 divine realm experts were all killed in one day. Xing Hui's heart shuddered. The Chaos Holy Man took action. Firmament Master said, the Chaos Holy Man awakened the bloodline of the Divine Beast, the Chaos Bloodline, the Divine Grade Battle Body, the Divine Grade True Origin, and the Supreme Grade Golden Core. Although he did not derive any divine power in the end, he still stood proudly at the top of the Divine Path realm with his vast accumulation of experience. When he reached the Divine Realm and obtained a 17th grade Supreme Treasure, he transformed his domain into the Chaos Realm and became an immortal existence. His most glorious battle was when he trapped 14 Divine Realm Giants by himself and held on for an entire day under their attacks. He held on for an entire day under the attacks of 14 Divine Realm Giants by himself. Xing Hui's heart shuddered. That's right. Moreover, he hadn't reached the insightful Void Realm at that time. Now that he's reached the insightful Void Realm, if he wants to be our enemy, he only needs to use the Chaos Realm to envelop me. I'm afraid that even if I spend 10 or 20 years attacking without rest, I won't be able to tear the Chaos Realm and escape. At this point, the Firmament Master sighed. In fact, if it weren't for the Son of Chaos 25th grade Incarnation Technique and 30th grade Teleportation Technique, the Chaos Holy Man would be the #1 Tao master in the divine wilderness. Chaos. Xinghui knew about this divine beast. It was a kind of creature whose defense was so strong that it made one's hair stand on end. As for trapping the enemy, that was only its derivative ability. But even its derivative ability was strong enough to trap 14 divine realm giants. Just thinking about it made one feel despair. Fortunately, chaotic divine beast bloodline is not good at attacking. It's just like how chaotic holy man trapped the 14 saint realm giants. Although the 14 saint realm giants could not escape, he could not do anything to them. Otherwise, chaotic holy man would have become even more terrifying. The Firmament Master paused for a moment. However, if he can break through to the 3rd level of the divine realm and shatter the vacuum, his lack of attack power will be compensated. At that time, his defense will be invincible and his attack will be a threat to experts of the same level. I'm afraid that even the Tai Emperor and Divine Lord Ancient Desolation will not be his match. Xinghui nodded and did not continue. The Chaos Holy Man, who was ranked in the top 3 of the 10 supreme experts, was still some distance away from him. Even though the Soaring Cloud Sword sect was annihilated by the Divine Path sect all those years ago, it still left behind a lot of forces. After a period of development, it has a few earthly phenomenon experts and a few dozen almighty figures. In terms of almighty battle prowess, it isn't inferior to the forces of the One Hall, the 3 sects, the 6 schools, and the 9 clans, so it can't be underestimated. Moreover, the Shifeng Mountain Range is located between our Skydome sect and the Rainbow Sword sect. Following the rise of the Soaring Cloud Sword sect and the entry of the Sword Shadow sect, our 3 great forces will be completely united as one. From then on, we'll help each other. The 3 forces will be united. Xinghui breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this. It seemed that the Firmament Master did not have to worry about the danger of collapse for a short period of time. This way, he would have time to study sword moves and do his best to have the power to fight against divine beasts. The Divine Ghost sect has temporarily retreated after our 3 forces are united. However, the reason why I called you here has something to do with the Divine Ghost sect. Esteemed Master, please speak. As far as I know, the previous leader of the Divine Ghost sect, Wang Qicheng, has already reached the peak of the astronomical and earthly level. Wang Qicheng coincidentally excavated an ancient cave residence and obtained a 16th level divine weapon from the ancient cave residence. His battle power is incredible. If he can step into the divine realm, his battle power will immediately surpass the initial stage of the divine realm and reach a level that is not inferior to the suffering true God and the others. Therefore, the Divine Ghost sect will definitely find a way to exchange for some innate charm from the divine wilderness to help Wang Qicheng. Esteemed Master, you mean I hope that you can sneak into the Divine Ghost sect and steal this innate charm? The Firmament Master said seriously. During this period of time, I have already understood your methods. In terms of speed, almost no one in the divine realm can compete with you. In addition, your battle power is incredible and you are a stranger, so the Divine Ghost sect will not suspect you at all. You are the best person to steal this innate charm. If we can get this innate charm, even if we cannot cure Zhu Zhao, we can at least stabilize his injuries and prevent them from worsening. Speaking of this, he paused for a moment. However, this trip will be very dangerous. You have a bright future ahead of you, so logically speaking, we should not let you go. However, we really do not want to let go of this opportunity, so if you refuse, we will not force you. When? Xinghui asked without hesitation. You agree? That's right. I am greatly indebted to Master Zhu Zhao. Since I can help him, I will not refuse. Good. The Firmament Master replied with a heavy voice. His eyes flashed. We did not misjudge you. Go to the Rainbow Sword sect to comprehend the Rainbow Sword intent first. We will arrange a flawless identity for you. When everything is arranged, we will inform you and let you sneak into the Divine Ghost sect. Chapter 609. Baihong Sword Sect. The alliance with Heaven's Vault had not only improved the situation in Heaven's Vault, but also reduced the pressure on Baihong Sword Sect. Although the Divine Path Sect had the support of Heaven's Way, and the two factions had as many as 12 Saint experts, Baihong Sword Sect, Heaven's Vault, and Sword Shadow were by no means weak. If the alliance formed by these three factions really went to war with Heaven's Way, even if Heaven's Way and Divine Path Sect could win, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Perhaps the Divine Wilderness and Eternity would be happy to see such an outcome, but it was not in line with Heaven's Way's plan to unify the Divine Wilderness. Under such circumstances, to avoid forcing Heaven's Vault, Baihong Sword Sect, and Sword Shadow to launch a full-scale counterattack, temporarily withdrawing their forces was the best choice. At this moment, in the core area of Baihong Sword Sect, Sword Master Baihong was personally overseeing it. Outside, there were several Sword Saints protecting the surroundings, completely sealing off the entire mountain peak. In the stone room where Baihong's sword was stored, there were still powerful ripples of sword intent spreading from the mountain peak, even though there was a barrier. Even the Sword Saints on the periphery were affected to some extent. A month's time is up, right? Among the 6 Sword Saints on the periphery, the Black Turtle Sword Saint, who had the cultivation of lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, asked. However, Sword Master Baihong, who was at the center of the formation, glanced at the Black Turtle Sword Saint indifferently. Although we agreed to let Sword Master Pak Hui use Baihong's sword for a month, as long as Sword Master Pak Hui hasn't finished cultivating, we shouldn't disturb him. Otherwise, if we interrupt him at a crucial moment in comprehending sword force, who can bear the responsibility? The Black Turtle Sword Saint smiled embarrassedly. I'm just saying, Sword Master Pak Hui is the 4th Sword Master of Baihong Sword Sect. Even if he uses Baihong's sword to cultivate for 2 months, it's reasonable. The other Sword Saints also nodded in agreement. The Rainbow Sword Sect was different from the Sky Dome Sect. There might be some outsiders in the core circle of the Sky Dome Sect, but those who could become Sword Saints in the Rainbow Sword Sect were all loyal and devoted to the sect. There was no need to worry about trust. Thus, these Sword Saints had already secretly understood the miraculous and powerful nature of the Pak Hui Swordmaster. No one wanted to leave a bad impression on the legendary Swordmaster, who had unlimited potential and was likely to become one of the top 10 most powerful people in the future. Fortunately, the Rainbow Sword's owner wanted to do Tsing Hui a favor, but Tsing Hui did not want to appear too special. When night was about to fall, the majestic sword intent emitted from the rainbow sword gradually dissipated, and it fell silent again. After waiting for less than an hour, Tsing Hui, whose mental state had greatly changed compared to before, slowly walked out of the stone room. Sword Master Pak Hui. Thank you, Sword Master Changhong, for protecting me. Tsing Hui bowed slightly to the Sword Master Changhong. You're too polite, Pak Hui Sword Master. I'm sure you have many comprehensions that need to be digested, so we've already arranged a cultivation room for you. The Sword Master Changhong gestured towards a courtyard on a nearby mountain peak. Tsing Hui nodded. Without saying anything else, he leapt up and flew towards the mountain peak. A disciple led him to the courtyard where he cultivated in seclusion. As Tsing Hui left, the Sword Master Changhong and the 6 Sword Saints immediately acted together. They activated the formations on the mountain peak where the rainbow sword was located, sealing everything inside, including the flow of energy. This reduced the energy activity inside to a minimum. The Rainbow Sword Sect was able to maintain the power of the Rainbow Sword's sword intent to this day through these layers of formations and the constant nourishment of the sword intent of several Sword Saints. Otherwise, with the speed at which the sword intent was dissipating, the spirituality of any divine weapon would have completely disappeared after tens of thousands of years, unless it was a chaotic artifact that was superior to divine weapons. The Rainbow Sword's sword intent is indeed extraordinary. Not only did I benefit greatly from it, even the Deep Scarlet Sword's sword intent seemed to have been stimulated and grew a little. If I wasn't sure if the Deep Scarlet Sword could reach level 13 after gaining spirituality, I no longer have any doubts now. In the cultivation room, Xinghui wore a faint smile on his face. After a month's time, under the tempering of the rainbow sword, his spiritual force level had reached a shocking level 132, and he had completely stepped into the level where he could condense sword force. At the same time, after this period of consolidation, he finally had his own conclusion about sword force. Although he was still a little short of condensing sword force, he finally had a direction for his sword force. Others' forces are based on the power of heaven and earth. Mine is based on pure sword intent and will. If I really want to use the power of heaven and earth to condense sword force, my sword intent will definitely not be pure. In that case, if I want to condense sword force, the only way is to use my sword intent to replace other people's sword intent. Or rather, use my sword intent to replace other people's sword intent. Once the sword intent is out, all laws will submit. This was his force. The force that all laws will submit. The force that only I am supreme. And in order to achieve this, a spiritual level of 132 was obviously not enough. At present, the power of his sword intent derived from the Eastern Sun Sword technique was also not enough. All laws submit. Only I am supreme. It seems that condensing sword force will be more difficult than refining the body and perfecting the Sword of the Sun dazzling sword. Currently, the situation in Infinite Wasteland domain is unstable. Although the Sky Vault sect, the Sword Shadow sect, and the Rainbow Sword sect have combined to form a colossal force, once the Heavenly Tao, the Divine Wilderness, and the Eternal Sword sect begin to clear out, it will still be difficult to resist the surging tide of these three top forces. Therefore, for me, the most important thing is to increase my own strength. Then, I can only work on refining the body and perfecting the Sword of the Sun dazzling sword. Xinghui muttered to himself. In fact, in terms of sword force, if he could raise his sword talent to level 10, he would have the characteristic of suppressing other sword cultivators, forming an effect similar to the submission of all laws. Unfortunately, the divine technique, the deduction technique, and even the power of comprehension were the focus of his improvement, and if he added his sword talent, his chaotic level was far from enough, unless he was willing to raise his chaotic level to level 60 and above, causing the Chaos Treasure Pavilion to transform again. Body, the Sword of the Sun dazzling sword, sword force. Among the three, increasing my body is the easiest. I have already cultivated the 9 changes of the real dragon to the Great Perfection Realm. As long as I obtain the cultivation technique of the real dragon realm, I will be able to break through to the real dragon realm in 1 or 2 months. However, this method requires luck. Apart from my body, there is the Sword of the Sun dazzling sword. Sword force completely dependent on luck. Xinghui was silent for a moment, sorting out the current situation he was facing, and finally decided to solve the problem of the suffering true God. And to solve the suffering true God spirit sealing mystic technique on the hidden sword venerable, it was inevitable that he would have to infiltrate the Black Flame sect. In this way, he would have to cultivate the shadowless stance immortal technique well. After half a year of accumulation, the amount of Taoist rhymes in the Fortune Sacred Jade had increased. Originally, he had planned to keep these Taoist rhymes and activate the Fortune Sacred Jade once after accumulating to 1,000 Taoist rhymes. Then he would be able to complete his cultivation in one go. However, the situation had changed, and he had to use it slightly. Thinking of this, Xinghui no longer hesitated. With the help of the creation Divine Jade, he quickly comprehended the shadowless stance immortal technique. The difficulty of comprehending this shadowless stance immortal technique was far from being comparable to the shadowless stance immortal technique. In less than 100 Tao auras, Xinghui had already comprehended the shadowless stance immortal technique to the Great Achievement Realm. Although the shadowless stance immortal technique to the Great Achievement Realm did not allow him to jump out of the 3 realms and not be in the 5 elements, it was enough to cover his aura completely. It even created a strange effect on his body. Even if there were people standing in front of him, they would unconsciously ignore his existence, even though they could see him. Such a mysterious, shadowless stance. Immortal technique had already exceeded the imagination of cultivators of the divine beast bloodline system. With this shadowless stance, immortal technique, it's enough for me to infiltrate the Black Flame sect. Sing Hui revealed a smile on his face. In the next moment, he had already left the courtyard where he was cultivating in seclusion. He summoned the disciple outside the courtyard and said, "Tell Sword Master Chong Hong that I have to go out for a while. I won't be bidding farewell to Sword Master Chong Hong." "Yes, my lord." The disciple respectfully replied and left. Sing Hui immediately leaped onto his sword and quickly shot out of the Rainbow Sword sect. After leaving the Rainbow Sword sect, he immediately used the shadowless stance, immortal technique, and disappeared into the horizon like a white streak of light. Almost at the same time, Sing Hui left the Rainbow Sword sect. Sword Master Chong Hong appeared outside the Rainbow Sword sect with him. She originally wanted to ask Sing Hui why he left the Rainbow Sword sect, but when Sing Hui used the shadowless stance, immortal technique, her thoughts suddenly changed. Pak Hui is the fourth sword master of the Rainbow Sword sect. If she wants to go back and forth to the Rainbow Sword sect, she naturally doesn't need to report to me. As a sword master of the Rainbow Sword sect, we should give her enough freedom so that she won't be restricted in the Rainbow Sword sect and willingly stay in the Rainbow Sword sect for a long time. Thinking of this, she turned around and returned. The Black Flame cult was not far away from the Rainbow Sword sect. Strictly speaking, it was less than 100,000 kilometers away. Sing Hui didn't fly on his sword at full speed as he wanted to make a huge commotion. However, it still took him less than a day to step into the Black Flame cult's territory. Compared to the Rainbow Sword sect's loose management of the forces under their jurisdiction, the Black Flame cult's territory was ruled by divine authority. Almost all of the people living in the Black Flame cult's territory were followers of the Black Flame cult. The only difference was the degree of belief. In such a situation, Sing Hui naturally didn't dare to stay in the Black Flame cult's territory. He maintained his vigilance and traveled for half a day. A group of black palaces built in a huge white mountain range appeared before his eyes. The entire group of palaces was completely black, reflecting the brilliance of the huge white mountain range. There were round towers in the palaces. The top of the towers wasn't in the shape of a sharp cone. Instead, it was burning with a cluster of black flames. It was filled with a deep, dark, and mysterious feeling. Is this the Black Flame cult? Calamity, real God. Let me see where you're hiding. As Sing Hui spoke, he activated his aura observation skill. Suddenly, countless auras in the entire Black Flame cult soared into the sky and appeared clearly before Sing Hui's eyes. Among them, there were 3 auras that were like huge pillars of air that occupied a large area. At the same time, they reached the clouds. They were vast and mighty, completely suppressing the weaker auras around them. However, other than these auras, we could also see countless mechanical auras that were connected together. They surrounded and protected the huge group of palaces. Although the auras that were connected together were rather stiff, they were vast and mighty. As soon as they exploded, the power was enough to suppress a few divine beings at once. These obviously stiff auras are the operating tracks of the Black Flame cult's mountain protection formation. It's a pity that I don't know anything about formations. Otherwise, I could have used the aura observation skill to break the mountain protection formation of the Black Flame cult directly. However, although I can't break the mountain protection formation of the Black Flame cult, I can still find some aura nodes. These nodes are the best choice for sneaking in or taking refuge. Sing Hui looked calm as he headed directly to a node that was guarded by an almighty. As Changfin has to accompany my father to Meizhou to treat his lumbar disc on the 13th, they can only return on the 15th. As my father can't take a plane, it takes 2 hours to travel from my hometown to Guangzhou. It takes more than an hour to get to the train station and more than 5 hours to get to Meizhou by train. The journey will take a total of 9 hours. A single car ride is equivalent to a whole day. Not to mention the possible delays in the middle of the journey. The round trip will take 2 days. It's almost impossible for me to have time to write. Therefore, I have to save up for these 3 days. Chapter 610. There were many experts in Black Flame sect. There were 3 of them who were at the divine level. There were also many almighties who were at the divine level and celestial and earthly level. As the protective mountain formation was the core of Black Flame sect, there would naturally be almighties guarding the nodes of energy flow secretly. On top of that, there were many palaces that were made of dust cleansing stones in Black Flame sect. They were good defense against the incarnation skill and teleportation skill. It was a pity. Then they met Tsing Hui. Tsing Hui, who was using the shadowless celestial skill, seemed to have become one with the power of the protective mountain formation of Black Flame sect. Unless someone saw him with their own eyes, no one would be able to sense his location based on his aura. However, no matter how cautious and conscientious that great being was, it was impossible for him to keep an eye on the energy nodes of the protective formation at all times. There would be times when he would let his guard down. Ching Su hid for less than an hour. While the great being received a message and was reading it, he passed through the formation with a flash and snuck into the Black Flame cult. The Almighty noticed when he flashed. However, the shadowless celestial skill that had reached the great achievement realm seemed to have touched some kind of mysterious rule. It possessed a mysterious power that could change one's subconscious thoughts. Although the Almighty noticed, his mind was filled with thoughts of denial in the next second. As such, he didn't investigate further. True God of suffering. He really hid himself. Well, his aura seems to be weaker than the other 2 saint stage giants. Wait, could it be that he still hasn't recovered after burning the origin of his domain half a year ago? As Tsing Hui sneaked in the direction of real God suffering, he observed real God suffering's aura and he looked surprised. On one hand, he was shocked by the difficulty of recovering the origin of realm. On the other hand, he had a bad feeling. If the injuries of suffering true God's domain origin had not fully recovered, then what he should be doing now was to go into seclusion to recover. In actual fact, when Tsing Hui sneaked to a mountain peak not far away from real God suffering, he had to admit that he had come at the wrong time. The mountain peak where real God suffering's aura was completely sealed off by a formation. Although Tsing Hui could see the flow of the formation's aura, a fully activated sealing formation and a half-activated protective mountain formation were 2 different things. On top of that, he wasn't proficient in formation doctrine. Hence, he couldn't do anything about the formation. If he wanted to enter it, he could only break it by force. However, this was the Black Flame sect headquarters. If he were to forcefully tear apart the formation in the Black Flame sect's headquarters, he would definitely be besieged by 3 saint stage powerhouses. Even if he was much stronger than before, he would definitely not be able to do so. If he were to hide inside, I wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, since I'm here, I naturally can't return empty-handed. Black Flame sect is one of the 6 sects after all. Even if the top treasures in the sect are kept in the saints and almighty's personal space, there's still quite a number of items that are of a lower grade. I shall take them away and sell them. I can enrich Hunyuan trade union. Tsing Hui turned his gaze and headed to the treasury of Black Flame sect. The treasury of Black Flame sect was also protected by a formation. There was even an almighty guarding outside the treasury personally. However, as there would be people entering and exiting the treasury from time to time, the formation naturally wouldn't be the same as the one in real God suffering seclusion place. It was impregnable. Tsing Hui waited outside for less than 2 days. Then, there was a disciple who looked young and had cultivated to the gold core realm. He held the master's token and stepped into the treasury. Taking advantage of the opening of the treasury and the loosening of the formation, Tsing Hui entered the treasury in a flash. There aren't any top treasures in the treasury of Black Flame sect. However, there are quite a number of treasures for real origin realm, transformative realm, never-ending realm, and gold core realm. Although the magical weapons aren't of a high grade, they're around the 9th or 10th grade. However, there are a lot of them. There are also many materials and treasures. Although they aren't the top treasures, there are a lot of them. Tsing Hui glanced at the treasury. Then, In a flash, he appeared on top of the elite disciple. Before he could react, he knocked him out and kept him in his personal space. After dealing with this golden elixir realm disciple, his figure quickly shuttled back and forth in the treasury. Almost everywhere he went, the divine weapons, natural treasures, spirit beast soul essences, and so on were all kept in his personal space. In less than half an hour, the entire treasury had been cleaned out by him. After collecting everything in the treasury, Tsinghui no longer relied on the Gold Core Realm disciple to lead the way. Instead, he headed out of the treasury. Outside the treasury, the Almighty from Black Flame sect lifted his eyelids lazily when he heard the footsteps. "I've chosen the items, and I'm here to record it. You, who are you?" Tsinghui stepped out of the treasury. Without saying anything, he soared into the sky at the fastest speed possible. Along with a deafening sonic boom, he whizzed into the sky. As he soared into the sky, his sword essence burned and light pursuit was activated. His speed reached an unprecedented level. In a breath's time, he covered a distance of hundreds of kilometers. Along with the deafening sonic boom in the sky, countless cultivators in Black Flame sect lifted their heads in shock. Meanwhile, the great figure outside the treasure vault was suddenly jolted awake, and he shouted with a grim voice, "Men, stop him!" At the same time, he dashed into the treasury at the fastest speed possible. When he saw the empty treasury, his eyes were bloodshot. "How dare you? How dare you sneak into our Black Flame sect and steal? Quick, raise the protective mountain formation and stop him. Stop him!" The Almighty shouted loudly. His voice echoed throughout the Black Flame sect. Following the Almighty's shout, many powerful cultivators in the Black Flame sect were awakened. The entire Black Flame sect was mobilized. Powerful auras soared into the sky. Mixed with rage, they circulated in the sky above the Black Flame sect. Where did this thief come from? How dare you behave so atrociously in our Black Flame sect? Die! How dare you steal from our Black Flame sect? How dare you? How dare you? Surrender now. Powerful auras, accompanied by powerful attacks, swept across the sky above the Black Flame sect. However, Tsinghui, who had activated Light Pursuit, was extremely fast. The Almighties in the Black Flame sect, including those with astronomical phenomenon and earth cultivation, had been left far behind by Tsinghui before their attacks could even reach him. In a few breaths' time, there were close to 10 Almighties who had attacked. However, none of them managed to touch the corner of his clothes. Instead, the speed that he displayed caused these Almighties who had missed their attacks to be extremely shocked. What a fast speed! This can't be a divine great leader at the profound void stage, right? Impossible. A divine great leader at the profound void stage has already integrated himself into the law of space. With the help of the law of space, it's impossible for him to create such shocking movements when he's flying. This thief must have mastered an extremely fast divine great leader. Damn it, I can't stop him. The speed of my divine great leader's blazing soul flame isn't even as fast as his flying speed. These Almighties who had attacked were both shocked and furious. At the same time, they felt a sense of grievance and helplessness from the bottom of their hearts. Fortunately, this feeling of grievance did not last for long. As a vast and mighty territory energy swept across the area, a light screen that covered a radius of over 1,000 kilometers gradually formed and gradually dissipated. The true Savior. The true Savior has made his move. Good. The Great God Protection Formation has already been activated. Once the formation is fully activated, even a divine great leader won't be able to break it in a short period of time. How dare you come to our Black Flame sect and behave so atrociously? Even if you're a true divine great leader, I'll definitely make sure you won't be able to return alive, let alone a mere divine great leader who has cultivated speed divine great leader. The Almighties who had been helpless against Tsinghui, who was flying at high speed, were all relieved. Looking at the vast and mighty territory that was sweeping toward Tsinghui, they all smiled as if they were waiting for a good show. Unfortunately, this smile lasted for a moment before it was frozen by a sword ray that illuminated the world. Sunburst. Accompanied by a soft chant, it was as if a scorching sun was slowly rising in the void. It suddenly exploded, and endless light and heat spread out from the scorching sun. It continuously compressed the surrounding air, forming a shock wave that could be seen with the naked eye that swept across the area. Sword of Sunburst. Sing Hui's most powerful sword of Sunburst. Furthermore, although this sword was used to tear apart the true Savior's territory, its main purpose was to destroy the surrounding area. Don't forget that he was now in the Black Flame sect. If the power of this sword were to spread out and destroy the surrounding area, the damage it would cause would definitely be catastrophic. No one knew how many Black Flame sect disciples would die because of this sword. This was the method of besieging the way to rescue the Zhao. The shockwave and vitality clashed violently, forming a large amount of electromagnetism and light beams. The true God of salvation was forced to use his territory power to negate the power contained in the sword. However, even so, many buildings within a few kilometers of the center were destroyed. Hundreds and thousands of Black Flame sect members screamed in agony and turned into ashes from the aftershock of the sword. How dare you? A furious bellow rang out right after the true God of salvation's domain was shifted. With the voice, the power of another domain had already risen up, enveloping Qing Su. Another one? I wonder if the suffering true God has been lured out by me. However, 3 divine beings. This is beyond the limit of what I can fight against. Sing Hui's mind was filled with thoughts. However, the deep scarlet sword in his hand was not slow at all. At the moment when the territory of the 3rd divine being from the Black Flame sect swept over, the dazzling sword light exploded again and tore apart the territory of the only true God that was covering his body. After tearing apart the territory of the only true God, Sing Hui no longer entangled himself with this divine realm expert. He became one with his sword and whizzed toward the energy node of the divine protection formation that had yet to be fully activated. An almighty who was overseeing this place roared angrily and unleashed his divine power to stop him. However, what awaited him was Sing Hui's dazzling sword. I can't block it. Along with a terrified scream, the Almighty's divine power melted like snow under the attack of the Sword of the Sun. It instantly collapsed. The terrifying heat that rolled over forced him to retreat in fear. However, even so, the sword light from the Sword of the Sun that swept over still hid his body. There were a few holes in his body, and he flew out with blood all over his body. Moreover, Sing Hui only needed to move forward with his sword, and he would be able to kill this Almighty completely. However, the divine protection formation of the Black Flame sect was about to be fully activated, and the 2 divine beings were chasing after him. He could not delay any longer. He could only give up on this Almighty and whizzed out of the formation. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the vast sea of clouds. Chapter 611. Be * starred. The angry roar gradually stopped as the Black Flame sect's great divine blessing array was sealed. Even though it was only a few breaths later, 2 majestic forces had penetrated the great divine blessing array and appeared outside the array again. They swept out like a raging wave of territory energy. However, the sword light that Sing Hui had turned into was already far away from the Black Flame sect. It had rushed out of the Black Flame sect's sealing area. Damn it! The one true God appeared next to the world's savior, true God. His face, which was filled with holiness and honor in the eyes of his believers, was gloomy. A divine tier cultivator had infiltrated the Black Flame sect and robbed the sect's treasury clean. The 2 divine tier experts had even tried to stop the thief at the same time. However, the thief still managed to escape. This was simply trampling on the entire Black Flame sect's reputation. If this matter were spread, the entire Black Flame sect would be utterly disgraced. Seal off the news immediately. We can't let this matter leak out. The world's savior, true God, ordered coldly. Behind him, the Purification Sect leader and the Guardian Kings of the Black Flame Sect looked troubled. I'm afraid there's a problem. Almost everyone in the sect knows about the scene where many almighties and 2 true gods attacked. I'm afraid it's hard to hide this matter. That's your problem. You allowed the thief to sneak into the Black Flame Sect and rob everything in the sect's treasury. Is this the arrangement of the entire Black Flame Sect? Luckily, we weren't in seclusion during this period of time. If we were in seclusion and the enemy sneaked into our cultivation room and killed us, would you still be oblivious? The world Savior, true God, said sternly. The Purification Sect leader trembled slightly and could only say hurriedly, "Don't worry, true God. I'll do my best to minimize the impact of this matter." "We can't let go of the investigation of the thief," the one true God said calmly. The one true God at the side said indifferently, "This kid has grasped a divine ability that is proficient in speed. He also has a sword art that is shockingly powerful. With such a pure speed, divine ability, and shocking sword art, he definitely isn't a nobody. I want you guys to quickly investigate the clues and send them to me." "Yes, true God." The hierarch of purification bowed respectfully again. The one true God nodded and said no more. With a flash, he disappeared from the God protection array. The Savior true God glanced in the direction that Tsing Hui had left with a chilling look in his eyes. "Don't let me find you. Otherwise, I'll let you know the price you have to pay for offending the Black Flame Order." After saying that, he turned around and entered the God-blessed Great Formation. Tsing Hui naturally didn't know that his actions had already caused the divine stage giant of the Black Flame Sect to hate him to the bone. If he knew, he might even think of luring this divine stage giant out and ambushing him. It was not easy to kill a Saint Stage powerhouse, and if they failed, they would never have a day of peace. All the forces related to the Saint Stage powerhouse would suffer the crazy revenge of the Saint Stage powerhouse. However, if they succeeded, the benefit to the Saint Stage powerhouse would be at least 1,000 Taoist rhymes. Swish! To prevent the Black Flame Order from catching up with him, Tsing Hui purposely took a big detour. At the same time, he sent a part of his consciousness into the Chaos Shrine and found Su Tong and Blazing Glory, who were guarding the Chaos Shrine's primordial trade union. "I've just obtained a batch of items. This is the list of items. You can prepare to sell them one by one. If we need them internally, we can give them a discount. In short, sell these items as soon as possible and exchange them for Taoist items." As he spoke, Tsing Hui had already sent a message to Su Tong and Blazing Glory. After receiving the message from Tsing Hui, the two of them quickly browsed through it. In just a short while, they had already estimated the value of the items. Their eyes lit up. "President, there are a lot of items here. Although the price of each item isn't high, if we sell them at a reasonable price, we'll definitely make a profit of 400 Taoist rhymes. If you're willing to provide delivery service, the price of these items will be even higher." Delivery service. Tsing Hui pondered for a while and shook his head. "I'm currently busy with some matters. I don't have the time for that. You can sell them first." "Yes, President. We'll arrange it right away. These items are the most popular items. It's very convenient to sell them. No matter how much you can provide, they'll be sold out within 10 days. Blazing Glory said with a smile. "I've only obtained these items by chance. I might not be able to get much." As Tsing Hui said this, he seemed to have thought of something. "Wait a minute. I might be able to get some more." He thought of the god Ghost Sect. He couldn't do anything to a Saint Realm cultivator, but as long as he was fast enough, he might be able to capture a celestial phenomenon cultivator alive. Perhaps, once he made a move, he would be surrounded by several Saint Realm cultivators from the Divine Ghost Sect. However, if he could have people from the Sky Dome Sect, the Rainbow Sword Sect, and the Sword Shadow Sect to help him, this matter wouldn't be too dangerous. Go and advertise. However, the transaction will take place half a month later. Tsing Hui said, "Yes." The Primordial Trade Union was basically serving Tsing Hui. Su Tong and Blazing Glory naturally carried out Tsing Hui's orders. After leaving the Primordial Trade Union, Tsing Hui took a detour and flew towards Rainbow Sword Sect. At the same time, he came to the Sky Vault sect and found Master Firmament. Seeing Ching Su's arrival, a sliver of joy appeared on Master Sky's face. "Bai Su, you've come. I just happen to have something to talk to you about. I've already arranged your identity. You'll be a disciple of the Divine Ghost Sect's God-bearing peak. This is a mountain that the Divine Ghost Sect specially provides for the upper echelons of the sect to cultivate in seclusion. The defensive formation on it is extremely powerful, and once it's activated, it only needs 2 great existences to defend it, and they'll be able to block the attacks of 3 saints for an entire day and night. As a result, you need to head to the Divine Ghost Sect as soon as possible and enter the God-bearing peak. Otherwise, once the formation is activated, no one will be able to enter it unless Wang Qicheng comes out of seclusion." "Oh," Sing Hui nodded. "I'll go right away. I've invited a Void Walker from Sword Shadow. In addition, Sword Master Bai Heng will return to our Sky Vault sect soon. Once you succeed, we'll immediately attack the God Ghost sect and break in to rescue you. However, even if we invite a Void Walker to bring us to the God Ghost sect with his 10th order personal space, it'll still take us 10 to 15 breaths of time to break in. During this time, I hope you can exert your speed to the best of your ability and stall for as much time as possible until we arrive." At this point, Master Firmament paused for a moment before continuing. "As for the Divine Ghost Sect's mountain guarding formation, you don't have to worry about it. I have spies lying in ambush in the Divine Ghost Sect. They could destroy a few nodes of the mountain guarding formation at a critical moment and delay it for about 20 breaths of time. In other words, 10 to 15 breaths of time is enough?" Sing Hui nodded. The God Ghost Sect's strength was actually on par with the Black Flame Sect, and was slightly weaker than the Rainbow Sword Sect. It was only because they had the Divine Wilderness behind them that they were rather active. Sing Hui believed that if he did not directly clash with the saints of the God Ghost Sect, it would not be a problem for him to last 10 breaths of time. If Firmament Master and Sword Master Bai Heng arrived, and the 3 sages of the Divine Ghost Sect dared to chase them out of the Divine Ghost Sect's territory, he wouldn't mind killing them with Sword Master Bai Heng, Firmament Master, and the others. That's right. As long as you can last for 15 breaths of time, we'll definitely be able to bring you back. All right, I can go at any time. Sing Hui nodded seriously. Although it would be impossible for him to go to the Divine Ghost Sect's treasury with his identity, if he could capture Wang Qicheng, the previous Divine Ghost Sect's sect master, the benefits he could obtain could not be underestimated. If we do this, won't the God Ghost Sect start an all-out war? Sing Hui asked. Haha, if it was before, the God Ghost Sect would naturally kick us when we're down, but now, our Firmament, Rainbow Sword Sect, and Sword Shadow have joined together. A mere God Ghost Sect definitely does not have the courage. Even if they have the Divine Wilderness behind them, as long as the Divine Wilderness does not want to replace the Heavenly Tao and make our Firmament their opponent, they will definitely swallow their anger. Oh, then if I go a little overboard, it shouldn't be too big of a problem, right? You can do whatever you want. The Firmament Master waved his hand, giving Sing Hui the greatest authority to act. Finally, he cautiously said, "Remember, everything has to be done to protect your own life. Your future is limitless, so you can't be so easily buried in a small God Ghost Sect. If you really encounter danger that you can't disintegrate, use the teleportation technique to escape. Although the dust-repelling stone in the God Ghost Sect has some interference with the teleportation technique, the interference is not great. At most, it will cause the teleportation location to be wrong, but it won't lead to the danger of entering a spatial mezzanine. If you use the teleportation technique to leave, as long as your luck isn't too bad and you don't end up in the nest of another peak force, there's no need to worry about any special danger." "I understand. Leave it to me. I'll head to the God Ghost Sect now. And when you reach the territory of the God Ghost Sect, go to Wuhao Mountain first. I'll have our spy in the God Ghost Sect wait for you there. When the time comes, just follow his arrangements. He'll take care of the matter of you entering the God Ghost Sect." "All right," Sing Hui nodded. At the same time, his original body, which was flying towards the Rainbow Sword Sect, changed direction and flew towards the God Ghost Sect. Remember, ensuring your own safety is the most important thing. If there's really no chance, or if you're in danger, just don't do anything. No one in the Firmament Master will blame you. The Firmament Master said solemnly. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that there was no suitable candidate, Zhongjin Master, Yuanri Master, and the others wouldn't have agreed to let Xing Hui take the risk. But Zhujiao Master was gradually unable to hold on, and the Chaos Treasure Pavilion didn't produce any innate divine charm. At present, the only way to get it was from the God Ghost sect. There will be a third update later. Chapter 612. The Black Owl Mountain was famous for its unique rock structure. When the wind blew, the mountain would often emit ghostly cries and howls. It was considered a rather famous scenic spot within the Ghost God sect. At this time, Xing Hui was standing in an endless rock forest. Looking at the rocks of different sizes and shapes, he found it rather interesting. In fact, this kind of scenery existed on Earth as well, but it was not as large as this one. Lord, Xing Hui observed the rock forest for a while. A figure silently appeared beside him and whispered, How should I address you? Xing Hui looked at the plainly dressed, middle-aged man who seemed to be the maintenance staff of this scenic spot and asked, Lord, you can call me Lang Ping. The man, Lang Ping, said and gestured with his hand. Lord, please follow me. We need to make some preparations. Xing Hui nodded slightly and followed Lang Ping around the rock forest for a while. Soon, they arrived in an underground tunnel hidden among the rocks. After walking through the tunnel for about 200 meters, they appeared in a stone room. Arriving in the stone room, Lang Ping handed a portrait to Qing Su. Sir, this is the identity of an elite disciple of the Divine Ghost sect that I obtained. This disciple is called Yuan Shaohua, and he has lived in the Divine Ghost sect since he was young. His father and ancestors are all disciples of the Divine Ghost sect, so his background is extremely clean. Yuan Shaohua is rather introverted and not good with words, so he doesn't have many close friends, which makes it easier for him to disguise himself. It basically never leaves the Divine Ghost sect, so there's no need to worry about any accidents. Half a month ago, he witnessed the junior sister that he had a crush on for many years having an affair with another senior brother, causing him to suffer from chi deviation and silently die. I just happened to discover it, so I covered it up. Outsiders still think that he's still cultivating in seclusion. His temperament is a bit lacking. Xing Hui could not help but be speechless when he heard about Yuan Shaohua's fate. Lang Ping smiled. He has never left the Ghost God sect since he was young. His experience is close to zero. The reason he was able to cultivate to the level of transcendent is because of his good talent and the unique environment of the Ghost God sect. Xing Hui nodded. This Lang Ping's appearance is somewhat similar to mine. I can go to the mountain of accumulating God in his place with a little disguise. That's right. I was worried that Lord might not be able to conceal your presence and imitate the chi waves of a transcendent cultivator. But it seems that I worried too much. Lang Ping looked at Xing Hui. Even though Xing Hui had not used the immortal art to stand it shadowless, his presence did not leak out at all. Yuan Shaohua doesn't know many people, and he doesn't have the chaotic level. There are only a few people who can tell the difference in his chi waves. As long as your luck is not too bad and you don't do anything suspicious, the Ghost God sect will not suspect you and want to verify your chi waves. Therefore, as long as you disguise yourself a little and control your chi waves to maintain the level of transcendent, you'll be fine. But whether or not you can come into contact with Wang Qicheng on the mountain of accumulating God, or even personally deliver food and cultivation materials to Wang Qicheng will depend on your performance. I understand that. Xing Hui nodded slightly. You can just send me to the mountain of accumulating God. Very well. I will help you disguise yourself a little. Sorry for the offense. Lang Ping said, and soon began to fiddle with Xing Hui's body. In order to ensure naturalness, he only made some slight changes. But as Xing Hui deliberately imitated Yuan Shaohua and changed his presence, it was still 70 to 80% similar. All right, although there are still some differences, I don't think it will arouse too much suspicion. It's fine. I will directly reveal the presence of the never-ending realm. After breaking through, true Yuan will feed back into my body. It is completely reasonable that there will be some changes to my body. Lang Ping could not help but be surprised. You can perfectly imitate the presence of every level? Sing Hui smiled. In the next moment, his presence changed from the transcendent realm to the never-ending realm. Moreover, it was a never-ending realm that had just broken through. Anyone who saw him would definitely think that he was a newcomer who had stepped into the never-ending realm less than 10 days ago. This method is too ingenious. Lang Ping carefully sized up Sing Hui for a moment. After confirming that the disguise was flawless, he could not help but praise from the bottom of his heart. It should be about time, Sing Hui said. He had only used some small tricks from the shadowless dance. There was nothing ingenious about it all. In the final analysis, it was still because the divine beast bloodline cultivation system could derive too few miracles. Everyone was straightforward, competing with their cultivation base, bloodline, true chi, and divine weapons. Even the secret techniques and moves were not studied much. Under such circumstances, the originally extremely mysterious immortal techniques were invisible, and even some of the small tricks derived from them were enough to make them exclaim in admiration. Now, my lord's chances of getting close to Wang Qicheng are even greater. Yuan Xiaohua is less than 100 years old, yet he has reached the never-ending realm. Even if he cannot be considered a top genius in the Divine Ghost sect, he is not far from it. Moreover, his background is truly too solid. As long as my lord performs well, there is even a chance that you will be able to catch Wang Qicheng's eye and receive his free guidance. Sing Hui nodded. There is no time to lose. Let us return to the Divine Ghost sect as quickly as possible. Yes, yes. My lord, please follow me. Saying so, Lang Ping brought Sing Hui back to the Divine Ghost sect at full speed. On the way to the Divine Ghost sect, Lang Ping told Sing Hui about Yuan Xiaohua's habits of speech, social circle, and so on. Because Yuan Xiaohua's life was simple, Sing Hui did not need to spend much effort to remember. After Qing Su learnt about Yuan Xiaohua's life, Lang Ping successfully brought him to the soul-accumulating peak, allowing him to emerge from Yuan Xiaohua's courtyard naturally. He completely replaced Yuan Xiaohua as a person. This Yuan Xiaohua's life is very simple. Sing Hui walked to the loft where Yuan Xiaohua lived. Looking at the simple decorations in the loft, he was a little surprised. My lord, we can only patiently wait for the divine wilderness's side to make a move. Wang Qicheng is currently adjusting his state in the profound God Mountain. When the divine wilderness sends the innate charm over, it will probably be the time for Wang Qicheng to completely go into seclusion. This period of time will probably not exceed a month. In this month, my lord has to find a way to catch Wang Qicheng's eye as soon as possible. Lang Ping reminded in a low voice. Don't worry, I have my own plans for this. Sing Hui said. He did not have any thoughts of pleasing Wang Qicheng. He only wanted to wait for someone in the divine wilderness to send the innate charm to Wang Qicheng. After Wang Qicheng went into seclusion, he would directly capture Wang Qicheng alive and bring him to his personal space. He would then interrogate him about the chaos incantation, innate charm, Dao charm, and divine weapons. After squeezing all the value out of him, he would instantly refine him into a Dao fruit. Along the way, he could be said to be proficient in these methods. Then, in order to avoid arousing suspicion, I will take my leave first. If there is anything, my lord can contact me in the Chaos Divine Palace. Go. Sing Hui nodded. Lang Ping bowed slightly and left the loft. Array? Sing Hui wandered around Yuan Xiaohua's loft for a while, when a book quickly caught his attention. This book unexpectedly recorded a lot of information about array formations. Although Sing Hui was not proficient in array formations, but his vision was extraordinary. After flipping through the book, he was surprised to find that Yuan Xiaohua's understanding of array formations was not bad, and was at least at the level of an 8th-order array master. According to the saying of the Heaven Wasteland domain, the 1st to 3rd order were array formation apprentices, The 4th to 6th order were ordinary array formation masters, and the 7th to 9th order were already senior array formation masters. As for those who were able to set up formations of the 10th to 12th order, they were often respected as array masters. Array formations were different from divine weapons and pills. A 12th order formation referred to the maximum power that a 12th order expert could display, and this so-called maximum power was often able to increase the attack, defense, recovery, detection, and other characteristics of a 12th order expert by several times, or even more than 10 times. An Earth-level expert who had been enhanced by more than 10 times could easily face a Saint expert head-on. Even the Divine Protection Array that protected the Mountain Gate of the Black Flame sect was only at the 12th order. It could be seen that the array formation was extraordinary. Although Yuan Shaohua was only an 8th order array master, he had also stepped into the ranks of senior array formation masters. It was unknown whether it was because he kept a low profile or because he was not good at studying array formations, but this matter was not publicized, so no one knew about it. An 8th order array master who is not even 100 years old, his status is comparable to an ordinary Jindan stage elder. Yuan Shaohua can be called a talent. Sing Hui muttered to himself as he flipped through the books. But as soon as he finished speaking, one of the books made his action of flipping through the pages paused. This is... Sing Hui lowered his head slightly, approached the book, and carefully read it. After a while, a smile appeared on his face. It seems that I have picked up a treasure. This Yuan Shaohua, I don't know whether it is because he has stayed in the ancient peak for a long time, or because he has other channels, but he has actually studied 30 to 40% of the 9 rotation dragon formation of the ancient peak. 30 to 40% is not much, but if it is combined with my aura examination skill, even if the 9 rotation dragon formation is activated in the future, I can still travel freely in this array formation. With a trace of excitement, Tsing Hui could not wait to memorize all the information about the 9 rotation dragon formation in his mind. Since the Yunshin Peak was a mountain specially used by the sect's higher-ups for closed-door training, besides those absolutely trustworthy disciples, there was only one real array master on the mountain, and that was the person in closed-door training. In other words, unless the person in closed-door training announced that he had finished his training, anyone who wanted to enter the mountain or even leave the mountain could only rely on forcibly tearing apart the 9 rotation dragon formation. In this way, it was much more feasible. If it went well, he could even kill Wang Qicheng without alerting anyone. Let's see how vigilant Wang Qicheng is and how strong he is. Sing Hui said. What followed was a long wait. In fact, it did not take long. Sing Hui quietly replaced Yuan Shaohua's identity and stayed on the Yunshin Peak for 12 days, when a mighty aura descended upon the Divine Ghost sect. Without guessing, Sing Hui knew that it must be a divine domain giant of the divine wilderness who had come in person to personally escort the extremely precious innate charm. Less than 2 days after the divine domain giant of the divine wilderness arrived, someone immediately went up to the Yunshin Peak for a careful inspection. This inspection not only included the normality of the array, but also the loyalty of the personnel and many other details. Because this inspection was the second time, the intensity was not as strong as the one a month ago. In addition, Sing Hui's Yuan Shaohua did not seem to have left the Yunshin Peak at all, so he passed the inspection safely. 3 days later, Wang Qicheng finally arrived at the Yunshin Peak and then personally opened the 9 rotation dragon formation of the Yunshin Peak. There are only 3 updates today. Chapter 613. Sure enough, Yuan Shaohua has a deep understanding of the 9 rotating dragon formation. Sing Hui relied on the qi-observing skill, looking at the layer of flowing light enveloping the God-accumulating peak and comparing it with Yuan Shaohua's experience notes. The direction of all the energy flow was the palace at the top of the God-accumulating peak. That was to say, the 9 rotating dragon formation was now completely in the hands of Wang Qicheng, who was in closed-door training in the palace. The 9 rotating dragon formation was extremely powerful and had reached the 12th level. when it was running, unless there was an aura of the divine realm soaring into the sky, no one could sense the changes inside. Sing Hui's eyes paused on the path of the energy flow for a moment, and soon focused on a point. If I can't severely injure, defeat, and capture Wang Qicheng in the first place, then I can temporarily destroy this node and cut off the connection between the 9 rotating dragon formation and Wang Qicheng for 2 breaths. 2 breaths is not enough time for Wang Qicheng to enter the law phenomenon state. It's enough to severely injure and capture him alive. After considering these possible problems, Sing Hui stepped forward and went to the core of the palace. In the courtyard where Wang Qicheng was in closed-door training, a man in the transformative realm was reporting something to an old man in the gold core realm who was sitting cross-legged. Seeing Sing Hui coming, the old man's eyes immediately fell on him, and he said with a trace of vigilance, "What's the matter? Master hasn't called for anything yet." Sing Hui knew this old man. He was a loyal old servant of Wang Qicheng named Yuan Xiao. He immediately said, "The old sect master hasn't started closed-door training yet, right? I just thought of something important to discuss with the old sect master. Please report to me, Elder Xiao. What's the matter? Tell me." Although master hasn't started closed-door training, he is in a state of recuperation and can't be disturbed. No, I can only talk to the old sect master about this matter. Qing Su shook his head. In the end, he added, "This matter is related to the old sect master's cultivation. As a result, I hope Elder Xiao can pass the message to me and let me see the sect master." "Ha! Yuan Xiaohua. What can you possibly have that is related to the old sect master's cultivation? If you want to see the old sect master, you don't have to show your loyalty at this time. It won't be too late to ask for an audience after the old sect master finishes cultivating." The man in the transcendent state who reported to Yuan Xiao sneered. However, Sing Hui ignored him and continued to look at Yuan Xiao. "This matter is very important. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to see the old sect master at such a critical moment. If this matter isn't handled properly, it might even cause the old sect master to fail his advancement. If that's the case, can you bear the responsibility?" Sing Hui's words made Yuan Xiao and the man in the transcendent state change their expressions. Among them, Yuan Xiao shouted, "Nonsense! The old sect master's advancement was already in the bag, so how could it fail? If you continue to spout nonsense here and cause bad luck, be careful that I don't punish you on the spot." "Oh, you're not even going to try?" Sing Hui was a little surprised. He thought that since he kept saying that he had the information related to Wang Qicheng's advancement, he would at least be brought by Yuan Xiao to see Wang Qicheng, even if he didn't gain Wang Qicheng's trust. In this way, he could take action directly and take the risk of disturbing Wang Qicheng because he had to deal with Yuan Xiao and the others. But now, humph, what kind of person is the old sect master? He already knows the condensation of the field domain like the back of his hand. As long as the innate spirit essence arrives, he will naturally step into the divine realm. You're spouting nonsense here, cursing the old sect master to be hopeless. What's your intention? If it weren't for the fact that you're a disciple of Mount Yun, I would have killed you on the spot because of your rude words. Now, why don't you retreat quickly? Do you really want to die? When Qing Su saw the killing intent in Yuan Xiao's eyes, he knew that it would be impossible for him to avoid dealing with him and meet Wang Qicheng directly. He immediately said, rather regretfully, "It looks like I really don't have much talent for bewitching people. If that's the case, whoosh." In the next moment, the sharp sword in Sing Hui's hand had already stabbed at Yuan Xiao at an incredible speed. Even though Yuan Xiao stared at Sing Hui and was already on guard against Sing Hui, under the passive enhancement of the light-chasing magic, the speed of Sing Hui's sword had risen to a level that almost exceeded the reaction limit of an expert in the golden elixir realm. When Yuan Xiao suddenly woke up and opened his eyes angrily, the rolling sword chi of the Scarlet Abyss sword had already pierced through his throat. Then, the sword chi exploded and turned the golden elixir realm expert into blood foam on the spot. The man in the transcendent state originally wanted to cooperate with Yuan Xiao to slander Yuan Xiaohua and suppress his position in Mount Yinshan. However, he was shocked when he saw that Yuan Shaohua had killed Yuan Xiu with one strike. When he woke up, he opened his mouth to shout. However, before he could shout, the sword Qi of the Scarlet Abyss sword turned slightly and tore through his body. The terrifying temperature mixed in the sword Qi exploded and burned the man in the stage of outer fringe to ashes on the spot. After killing the two cultivators in less than half a breath's time, Xing Hui's figure leaped and was about to rush to the courtyard. However, when he rushed to the courtyard, he seemed to have sensed something. His gaze immediately fell on a true energy realm disciple who happened to be less than 200 meters away from the courtyard and happened to be carrying some things. When he looked at the true energy realm disciple, the true energy realm disciple also looked at him in shock. His eyes were filled with uncontrollable fear. Whoosh! The Scarlet Abyss sword vibrated, and a sword light tore through the void. At this moment, the true energy realm disciple who suddenly saw this terrifying scene suddenly woke up. True energy surged all over his body, and he shouted, "Enemy bang!" The sword Qi penetrated, and the heat wave collapsed. Like the stage of outer fringe expert, this true energy realm disciple was burned to ashes by the terrifying heat contained in the sword Qi, along with the surging true energy on his body. However, this true energy realm disciple's shout still spread a little. Soon, several auras of the golden elixir realm rose from the profound god peak. Since I can't make a move quietly, then Xing Hui no longer covered his tracks. He was too lazy to care about the auras of the golden elixir realm erupting from the profound god peak. He burst out with speed and rushed directly to the courtyard where Wang Qicheng was in seclusion. At the same time, his left hand suddenly waved and pinched into a sword finger. The bright sword light instantly shot at the node of the 9-rotation dragon formation, causing the formation to be slightly sluggish. Rumble. At the same time that the formation was sluggish, Xing Hui's body, which was mixed with the brilliant sword light, crashed into Wang Qicheng's courtyard. All the lofts, jade halls, gardens, and flowers along the way were all burned to ashes the moment Xing Hui crashed into the courtyard. At the same time that he crashed into the courtyard, an angry roar came from the courtyard. "Who dares to behave so atrociously in my divine ghost sect?" Amidst the angry roar, there was a burst of divine ability. A blazing flame formed the shadow of a vermilion bird, which spread its wings and soared. Endless light and heat rose above the shattered courtyard. The power it emitted was not inferior to a great divine ability at all. This was a fire attribute divine ability that had been deduced to the extreme. Moreover, because the user had studied this divine ability to the extreme, the fusion of the minor divine ability and the main divine ability was completed almost instantly, causing outsiders to be unable to see the process of the fusion of the main and minor divine abilities. It was as if he had used a great divine ability from the beginning, and its power was extremely vast. Crimson wings soar. Accompanied by Wang Qicheng's resounding roar, the vermilion bird shadow that radiated with destructive power raised its head and cried out. Scorching Nanming primordial fire shot out from its body. This was a primordial fire that was no weaker than the grand solar true fire of the Golden Crow. The moment it enveloped the surroundings, it basically completely suppressed Xing Hui's blazing sword light. Vermilion bird? A cold light flashed through Xing Hui's eyes. If your divine ability had something to do with other divine beasts or saint beasts, I might have to expend quite a bit of effort to take you down in a single stroke. But now, rumble. In the next moment, a brilliant sword intent shone out brazenly from Xing Hui's mental world. Like a scorching sun, it suddenly leapt out of the darkness and radiated with boundless light, illuminating the entire world. Chasing light. Sunburst. The brilliant sword intent, mixed with the terrifying power of the falling sun, fiercely collided with the vermilion bird shadow that spread its wings and soared in the sky. Suddenly, this flame divine ability that was as powerful as a great divine ability was like magma that was smashed by a scorching sun. Everything was annihilated. In front of the scorching sun, no matter how high the temperature of magma was, it could not escape the fate of being annihilated. What divine ability is this? Oh no! Wang Qiqing's face revealed an uncontrollable look of horror. He roared and did not care about the outcome of the battle between the two divine abilities at all. He immediately retreated, and at the same time, he waved his hand and was about to mobilize the power of the entire 9 revolving dragon formation on the profound God Mountain to fight against the enemy. But in just a moment, his face had become even more unsightly. The connection between him and the 9 revolving dragon formation was actually interfered with. Although this interference seemed to only need 1 or 2 breaths of time to disappear, but would his enemy give him this opportunity? The answer was no. Not only would he not. On the contrary, Xing Hui's speed in the state of chasing light was stimulated to the limit. Not to mention giving Wang Qiqing a chance to mobilize the power of the 9 revolving dragon formation. When he retreated and thought that he could escape from Xing Hui's attack range, a second mighty and blazing sword light had already pierced through the void at an unimaginable speed and slashed in front of him, completely filling the void around him. No! Divine King, save me! Amidst Wang Qiqing's shocked and furious cries, this courtyard and the summit of this mountain had been completely submerged in a burst of brilliant light. Chapter 614. While Xing Hui and Wang Qiqing were fighting, Divine King Constellation, one of the 3 divine kings of the Divine Ghost sect, looked towards the direction of the god-accumulating peak with surprise in his eyes. What a dense and domineering, blazing intent. Is Qiqing in such a hurry to start? The array of the god-accumulating peak could perfectly conceal all energy ripples below the divine realm. Even the aura of the divine realm would be greatly weakened and become unreal. Because of this, although he was surprised by the energy ripples from the god-accumulating peak, he didn't react immediately because they were both of the fire attribute. After a few breaths of time, Divine King Constellation, who felt that something was wrong, suddenly thought of something and his eyes widened. Something's wrong. That blazing intent isn't the descent of the Vermilion Bird King, but the domineering aura of the Golden Crow. And Wang Qiqing has awakened the Vermilion Bird bloodline, not the Golden Crow. Not good. The next moment, his terrifying aura of the Saint Stage completely erupted. Like a rainbow streaking across the void, he whizzed toward the god-accumulating peak. His powerful and mighty domain was like a torrential river, enveloping the god-accumulating peak with a radius of more than 10 kilometers. Divine King Constellation, that's the power of his domain. Divine King Constellation is truly worthy of being the Divine King of our Divine Ghost sect who awakened the Star Turtle's sacred beast. Once his domain is formed, he can create an innate array. In terms of encirclement, there are very few divine realm powerhouses in the entire divine wilderness that can compare with him. Why is Divine King Constellation rushing towards the god-accumulating peak? Is it because of the terrifying energy that burst out of the god-accumulating peak? That's clearly the old sect master trying to break through to the divine realm. Could it be that something happened to the old sect master during the process? Divine King Constellation's large-scale use of his domain to sweep across the god-accumulating peak naturally alarmed the entire Divine Ghost sect. For a moment, many of the middle and upper echelons of the Divine Ghost sect looked towards the direction of the god-accumulating peak in bewilderment. Some of them even soared into the void and flew towards Divine King Constellation, wanting to ask if there was anything they could do to help. Qiqing, are you all right? Quickly open the god-accumulating peak. If you don't open it in 3 breaths of time, I will forcefully break through the 9 revolving dragon formation and enter the god-accumulating peak. Constellation Divine King shouted from outside with a grave expression. At this time, the other 2 divine kings of the Divine Ghost sect, Divine King Calamity Battle and Divine King Violent Earth, also noticed Divine King Constellation's abnormality. They immediately appeared at the side of the Skunda Peak. Divine King constellation, what's going on? Is it because of that blazing aura? Could it be that something happened when Chi Chung tried to break through to the divine realm? Constellation Divine King nodded his head seriously. Chi Chung is my disciple, and I know him very well. Although that Chi belongs to the fire attribute Chi, and is rather strange, it clearly has the power of the saint stage, but it is not the saint stage, and is rather similar to the signs of breaking through to the saint stage. But according to my careful analysis, the essence of that blazing Chi is not the vermilion bird true flames, but the great sun true flames of the golden crow. What I'm afraid of now is that someone is hiding in the mountain of accumulating spirit, trying to ambush Red City. Their goal is to take the innate charm that we exchange for at a high price from the divine wilderness. What? Who dares to have such guts, to have designs on our divine ghost sex, innate divine charm, right under our noses? They are simply courting death. Hearing this, Divine King Calamity Battle and Divine King Violent Earth Divine King's eyes filled with killing intent. The innate charm is related to whether or not one can step into the divine realm in a single step. In our divine wilderness, there are many celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth experts, and there are also many who have the qualifications to step into the divine realm. But because of the lack of resources, the innate charm is scarce. Many people who clearly have the ability to step into the divine realm can only stop at the celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth. Under such circumstances, some people have gotten the news that our divine ghost sect exchange for an innate charm from the divine wilderness, and want to take the risk. It is reasonable. Constellation Divine King sneered. But I really want to know, even if they really have the ability to take away the innate charm, will they be able to take it away from our divine ghost sect? After saying that, he ordered the current sect master of the divine ghost sect, Li Fenglei, who was quickly flying over. Immediately activate the great dust separating array and activate the dust separating stones to the maximum. If he really plans on using the teleportation technique to escape, send him directly to the depths of the primal chaos. Divine King Calamity Battle and Divine King Violent Earth Divine King slightly nodded, their faces filled with ferocity. To actually have designs on our divine ghost sect, he truly doesn't know the meaning of death. When the great dust separating array is activated, although it will consume a lot of dust separating stones, the interference with space has already reached the maximum. Normally, if he uses the teleportation technique within our divine ghost sect, he will at most be sent to the interlayers of space. If he has an extremely high gray domain treasure or heavenly paradise stone, he can still find a chance to safely return. But with the great dust separating array activated, he still forcefully uses the teleportation technique. If he is not careful, he will be sent to the depths of the primal chaos. Those places are much more dangerous than the interlayers of space. That is the worst choice. The best way is for us to capture him alive and take back the innate charm. With us 3 saints here, do you think we can't do anything to a junior who hasn't even reached the saint realm? After saying that, Divine King Constellation's gaze landed on the God-accumulating peak. It has already been 2 breaths, and there is no movement from the God-accumulating peak. It seems that something has indeed happened. Everyone, there is no time to lose. We will act now and forcefully tear apart the 9 revolving dragon array to prevent any unforeseen events from happening. All right, if you think a single 9 revolving dragon array can protect you, then you are gravely mistaken. Don't forget, this array was set up internally by our divine ghost sect. How can you compare to us in terms of understanding of this array? Divine King Calamity and Divine King Ruthless nodded heavily. The 3 saints' domains immediately erupted in full force. Like a surging tsunami, they crashed towards the activated 9 revolving dragon array on the God-accumulating peak with the momentum of Mount Tai. The 9 revolving dragon coiling formation could be said to be astonishingly powerful, but just as the ruthless Earth God King had said, this formation was set up by their divine ghost sect, so they naturally knew the changes in the formation like the back of their hand. If it was an ordinary saint, even if 3 saints attacked together, it would not be an easy task to tear apart the 9 revolving dragon coiling formation. But the first wave of attacks from the 3 saint realm experts had already struck the 9-circle dragon coiling formation to the point it was on the verge of collapse. If this continued, then it wouldn't be long before the 9-circle dragon coiling formation would collapse completely. God Kings, it's bad. 2 saints are currently heading towards our divine ghost sect with extreme speed. They've already reached the center of our sect, and in less than 10 seconds, they'll officially set foot in our sect. According to the pulses of energy they give off, they're Sword Master Bai Hong of the Fogbo Sword Sect and Master Tianxiong of Tianxiong. At this moment, the sect master of the Divine Ghost Sect, Li Fenglei, seemed to have received a report from someone below, so he spoke to the God Kings in a panic. What? Sword Master Bai Hong of the Fogbo Sword Sect and Master Tianxiong of Tianxiong? God damn it, they're actually the ones behind this. I've been wondering as well. No matter how bold the saints are, they wouldn't be bold enough to invade our divine ghost sect and steal our innate charm. So there's actually someone supporting them from behind. Bastards. The Fogbo Sword Sect and Tianxiong sure are bold. Do they want to declare war on our divine ghost sect? The 3 God Kings were both shocked and furious when they received the news. However, they had forgotten that they had sent powerful existences to invade Tianxiong's territory more than once, even taking over several of his resource points. As for the true energy, transformative, never-ending, and golden core cultivators they had killed, they numbered in the hundreds. The only reason they hadn't killed their powerful existences was because they had forced Tianxiong and the Divine Ghost Sect to declare war on each other. The 3 God Kings were furious for a moment, but they calmed down at the same time. Sword Master Bai Hong was no weakling. He could be described as one of the most powerful existences below the sovereigns. Master Tianxiong was slightly weaker than Sword Master Bai Hong, but as the leader of Tianxiong and a veteran expert who had reached the Saint Realm over 1,000 years ago, he possessed methods and weapons that surpassed regular saints. If it weren't for the protective formation, the 2 of them could wipe out the entire Divine Ghost Sect together. Thinking up to there, God King Constellation immediately ordered, "Activate the protective formation immediately." What about Sword Master Bai Hong? So what if he's Master Tianxiong? With our protective formation activated, does he still dare to kill his way into our divine ghost sect? If he really dares to force his way into our protective formation, I'm even confident that he won't be able to return alive. Yes, I've already ordered people to activate the protective formation. We should be able to activate it completely before they arrive. Li Fenglei said, God King Brutality, God King Calamity, the 2 of you go and stop Sword Master Bai Hong and Master Tianxiong. Leave this to me. God King Constellation said. Okay. God King Calamity nodded. A cold glint flashed in the eyes of the Violence God King. Sword Master Bai Hong and Venerable Firmament. It is rumored that they belong to the group of people in the Saint Stage who are second only to the 10 Supreme Experts. If we were to meet under normal circumstances, I would be a little afraid of them. But in the territory of our Divine Ghost Sect, with the support of the Array, I want to see what kind of tricks they can play. As they spoke, their gazes were already fixed on the large, transparent vortex that was gradually forming in the air. That large, transparent vortex that covered an area of nearly 1,000 kilometers was the protective formation of their Divine Ghost Sect. It was called the Wheel of Life and Death Formation, and was a peak 12th level formation. This was also the reason why the Divine Ghost Sect was able to establish their sect here. Let's go. God King Calamity and God King Brutality both growled at the same time and quickly flew out of the sect. However, before they could fly to the entrance of the mountain and meet Sword Master Bai Hong and Master Tsang Xiong, who were rushing in their direction, a series of continuous explosions came from a dozen places in the Divine Ghost Gate. Then, the transparent vortex that was gradually forming in a void seemed to be disturbed by some kind of power and stopped abruptly. Chapter 6:15. What's going on? Constellation God King roared as he stared at the array that had suddenly stopped functioning. Li Fenglei immediately sent a message to inquire. A moment later, he replied with an ugly expression. Someone destroyed the Samsara Wheel Array's array foundation. Damn it, 20 breaths of time. We need 20 breaths of time to repair it. 20 breaths of time? The enemy will give us 20 breaths of time to repair the array? Constellation God King roared angrily. At this moment, two streaks of light whizzed over from the horizon. They quickly appeared above the divine ghost sect. Swordmaster Bai Hung and Master Firmament had arrived. Firmament, Bai Hung Sword Sect. Seeing the two invincible holiness experts in the sky, Violence God King and Calamity God King's eyes flashed with blood. Innate charm. In order to help Wang Qicheng, the previous sect master who had been at the peak of astronomical phenomenon for hundreds of years, condense his domain and step into the holiness realm, they had exchanged countless benefits with the divine wilderness to finally obtain the innate charm that would allow Wang Qicheng to condense his domain's origin. Once Wang Qicheng broke through to the holiness realm, their god-ghost sect, as a sect with 4 holiness experts, would greatly increase their strength. At that time, their original strategic plans would take a significant turn for the better. Unfortunately, now, a portion of innate divine essence that was sufficient to allow an expert of the heavenly phenomenon earthly realm to step into the godly realm had been devoured by the joint forces of Skydome and Rainbow Sword Sect. Because of this, Skydome and Rainbow Sword Sect had even come knocking on their door. This scene caused the eyes of these two gods to instantly turn red. Firmament, Bai Hung, do you two really want to become mortal enemies with our god-ghost sect? Violence God King's eyes were filled with savagery, his voice filled with rage. Violence God King, what is the meaning of this? Master Firmament stared at God King brutality in front of him with an indifferent attitude. I've come to your God Devil sect this time, mainly to demand an explanation for the fact that you've devoured several of Firmament's resource points in the past year. Your God Devil sect has repeatedly invaded Firmament's borders and killed hundreds and thousands of Firmament's members. Do you really think Firmament is easy to bully? Today, let me see what kind of courage your divine ghost sect has to dare to treat my heavenly dome as nothing. As soon as he finished speaking, Master Firmament waved his hand and a beautiful figure suddenly appeared beside Master Firmament. The aura emitted from this figure was only at the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth level. However, the divine sword in her arms instantly made Godly King brutality and Godly King calamity stare. Sky Sword wielder, Lan Rue. Lan Rue was not a saint, but he was more like a saint. In some aspects, she couldn't compare to the true invincible powerhouses of the saint realm. However, with the peerless divine weapon, the heavenly sword, in her hand, there were many times when she could erupt with a terrifying combat strength that wasn't inferior to the invincible powerhouses of the saint realm. Firmament, Lan Rue, and Swordmaster Bai Hung. This lineup was already close to the full strength of the heavenly dome of the past. If not for the fact that Swordmaster Bai Hung was slightly weaker than Reverend Zhu Zhao, the entire heavenly dome would have come out in full force. Looking at this lineup, then glancing at the wheel of life and death formation that still needed some time to be fully activated, the fury in the hearts of God King Brutality, God King Calamity Battle, and God King Constellation, who was attacking the 9 revolving dragon formation, rapidly cooled down as though a basin of ice water had been poured over them. You Firmament really want to start an all-out war with our God-Ghost sect? Cut the crap. Your divine ghost sect dares to provoke my Firmament. Today, let me see if you have the guts to do so. After the fight, you can talk to my Firmament again. Guru Firmament roared, and the power of his domain swept out. A ring appeared in the center of the domain, enveloping it, causing the entire domain to undergo a huge transformation. It became extremely sturdy, as if it was about to become a real world. It leaped out from the illusory world and suppressed this area. 10 world rings. This was Master Firmament's famous divine artifact, the 10 World Rings. With this divine artifact, Master Firmament had become a pinnacle saint below the 10 sovereigns. However, his strength mainly came from the divine artifact and not himself, so he was slightly inferior to Sword Master Bai Hong in terms of reputation. When Master Firmament made his move, Sword Master Bai Hong also made his move. The resplendent sword light was like a scorching sun that illuminated the world, filling the sky above the God Ghost sect in an instant. When the countless experts in the God Ghost sect looked up, their eyes were pierced by the powerful light. Even the powerful existences who had cultivated divine abilities were dazzled when they looked directly at the sword light. Under this strike, everyone felt a fatal threat that originated from their souls. God damn it! Sword Master Bai Hong, your Rainbow Sword sect is meddling in other people's business. The ruthless divine king roared furiously. His powerful domain forcefully covered the sword light that was like a scorching sun in the void. Powerful mystiques were born from the domain in a futile attempt to destroy the scorching sword light. However, the outcome was just as he had expected. The moment the sword light slashed down, the various mystiques were destroyed. They were like snow that was exposed to the scorching sun, rapidly melting away. The ruthless God King was suppressed by Sword Master Bai Hong the moment they clashed, while God King Huaido was not in a much better situation. With the amplification of the 10 World Rings, Venerable Firmament's domain was so strong that it was close to forming a world. Under the sweep of his domain, God King Calamity Battle was completely trapped in his domain. Even though God King Calamity Battle had unleashed all his domain power, he was still suppressed by Venerable Firmament's domain power. He was unable to break free. On the other hand, as Master Firmament controlled his domain to suppress God King Huaido, he flew out as well, directly charging into the Divine Ghost sect. If no one stopped him, he would directly attack and completely destroy the Divine Ghost sect's wheel of life and death formation. Firmament, seeing this, the constellation God King who was attacking the God-gathering peak felt his heart sink. He was forced to turn around and attack Master Firmament. Your opponent is me. Lan Rue stepped forward and slashed out with his sword. As the sword light shot out, space froze. The surrounding several hundred meters seemed to turn into a mirror. Afterwards, the mirror shattered. The spiritual energy, yuan, qi, air, and even the tiniest bit of matter within the mirror, along with the constellation God King's domain, were all pulverized, turning into a vacuum. With a single strike, Lan Rue had already slashed a hole several hundred meters wide in the constellation God King's domain. Rumble! As Lan Rue blocked the constellation God King, streams of light scattered from the God-gathering peak. The 9 revolving dragon formation that the 3 God Kings of the Divine Ghost sect could not take down suddenly opened. Xing Hui turned into a streak of light and shot out, instantly flying out of the Divine Ghost sect. Stop him! Seeing that Xing Hui was about to escape, the constellation God King roared. Instantly, several dozen God Kings of the Divine Ghost sect burst into action at the same time. One divine ability after another swept out, carrying a mighty torrent of power that tore through the void, heading straight for Xing Hui, who was charging out of the God-gathering peak. Unfortunately, although the divine abilities of these God Kings were powerful, with each strike able to blast a hole in a domain for a short period of time, Xing Hui was too fast. Several dozen divine abilities blotted out the sky, forming a destructive torrent. However, before this destructive torrent could truly devour Xing Hui had already left it far behind. Without waiting for the second wave of destructive torrent to form, he tore through the void at an unbelievable speed, bringing with him a piercing sonic boom as he charged out of the Divine Ghost sect. His speed was so fast that everyone's eyes widened. This speed-type divine ability? The aura of the Golden Crow? Could it be the legendary rainbow transformation technique? Damn it, too fast, too fast. Without anyone trapping him, our divine abilities can't hit him at all, the three God Kings, and the God Kings looked at the figure that shot out of the divine ghost sect with lightning speed and were instantly at a loss. Sword Master by Hung is here. I didn't expect Sword Saint Lan Rue to be here as well. In terms of strength, our side should already be above the divine ghost sect, right? Esteemed Lord, should we teach the divine ghost sect a lesson and kill one of their God Kings? Sing Hui shot out of the divine ghost sect at full speed. It looked like he did not have any interaction with the people of Sky Dome, but in reality, he was secretly sending a message. Kill one of the divine ghost sect's God Kings. When the Heavenly Master heard Sing Hui mention this matter, he could not help but be slightly startled, but after a moment, he immediately denied it. No, every God King can basically push their primal chaos level to the 30th level at a critical moment and use teleportation to escape. It's not easy to kill them. Furthermore, even though the divine ghost sect's life and death wheel formation has been destroyed by our spies, it won't be long before it reactivates. Once the divine ghost sect's life and death wheel formation is activated, relying on the formation's power, the few of us will probably be in great danger. Therefore, since the plan is going smoothly, it's best to retreat as soon as possible. Sing Hui was about to say that as long as Sword Master by Hung cooperated with him, he was confident that he could kill one of the divine ghost sect's God Kings before the life and death wheel formation was truly activated. But this time, the Heavenly Master added, in addition, behind the divine ghost sect stands the divine desolate. Although our Heavenly Master, Sword Shadow, and Rainbow Sword sect have intimidated the Heavenly Tao and made the Heavenly Tao not dare to act rashly, if we completely offend the divine desolate, it is very likely that the Heavenly Tao and the divine ghost sect will join forces and restart the war with our Heavenly Dome. In a situation where esteemed Zhu Zhao is heavily injured and has yet to recover, our Heavenly Dome is unable to withstand this kind of turmoil. Therefore, now is not the time to completely start a war with the divine ghost sect. Hearing this, Sing Hui nodded and did not say anything else. He immediately left on his sword, disappearing into the horizon in an instant. In the eyes of the crowd, it was as if the Heavenly Dome and Sing Hui had nothing to do with each other. It was as if the Heavenly Master, Sword Master by Hung, and Sword Saint Lan Rue had really come to demand an explanation for the divine ghost sect's invasion of the Heavenly Dome resource points in the past year. However, it was unknown just how many people would believe this scene. The Heavenly Master and the other two divine ghost sects, God Kings, fought fiercely for a while longer. Seeing that the life and death wheel formation was about to be activated, they immediately retreated and left behind ruthless words. Constellation God King, Violence God King, Battle God King, I'll give you divine ghost sect 10 days to withdraw from our Heavenly Dome resource points. Otherwise, things will not be as simple as today. After saying this, he completely ignored the murderous gazes of the Constellation God King, Violence God King, and Battle God King. He directly waved his hand at Sword Saint Lan Rue and Sword Master by Hung. Let's go. Mantis Shrimp, let's go. Chapter 616, Sky Dome Station. Sing Hui, who had returned to the Sky Dome Station early, was immediately greeted by Master Tsang Zhen and Master Yuanri. Not long after, Master Tsang Zhen, Sword Master by Hung, and Sword Saint Lan Rue also quickly arrived. Pak Hui, how was it? Did you get the innate divine charm? Master Tsang Zhen couldn't wait to ask as soon as he landed. I directly captured Wang Qicheng. I'll have to trouble you to ask someone who is good at torture to interrogate him. As Tsing Hui spoke, he waved his hand, and the unconscious Wang Qicheng was transferred out of the space. Captured alive, Master Tsang Zhen looked at Wang Qicheng in front of him, his eyes full of surprise. Wang Qicheng is a pinnacle lawful embodiment of heaven and earth expert, and his understanding of force has long been perfected. In such a short time, you were able to capture him alive? I was just lucky, Sing Hui said. This time, you made a great contribution. Wang Qicheng has fallen into our hands. Not only can we force out the innate divine charm from him, but we can also exchange him for a lot of precious resources from the Divine Ghost sect. These should be your spoils of war. When the time comes, we'll give them to you one by one. Xinghui pondered for a moment, then said, "No need. Just take it as my contribution to Sky Dome Station. After all, I've been taken care of by all of you along the way." "How can that be? What's yours is yours. Moreover, how can the things we give you compare to the value of a pinnacle lawful embodiment of heaven and earth expert? Wang Qicheng and his chaos technique alone are worth hundreds of Taoist rhymes. All right, leave this matter to me. I don't believe that the Divine Ghost sect would be willing to give up a pinnacle lawful embodiment of heaven and earth expert who's half a step into the divine realm. This time, we must make them pay a heavy price." Master Songjun said fiercely. He had a deep grudge against the Divine Ghost sect for taking advantage of the situation. "Songjun will be in charge of this matter." Master Firmament nodded in agreement. "Thank you, Master Songjun." Xinghui was indeed lacking in Dao runes. Seeing that exalted Master Songjun had said so, he did not insist. "All right, there's no time to lose. I'll interrogate Wang Qicheng and force him to reveal his innate charm." At the mention of these innate divine charms, Venerable Master Firmament's gaze landed on the Mist Rue Sword Saint. "The matter of you condensing your domain origin and breaking through to the divine realm will have to be delayed again. Right now, the most important thing for Venerable Zhu Zhao is to recover as soon as possible. I hope you can understand." The Mist Rue Sword Saint nodded, and there was no dissatisfaction on his face. "Regarding the matter of Lan Rue's innate charm, our White Rainbow Sword sect will also think of a way," Bai Heng said. Immediately, Venerable Master Cong Zhun hurriedly left with Wang Qicheng and Venerable Master Yuanri. Venerable Master Cong Zhun also pondered on how to blackmail the Divine Ghost sect and handed the task of receiving Swordmaster Bai Heng to Xinghui. As for the Lan Rue Sword Saint, he was rather introverted and was not good with words. Even in front of Swordmaster Bai Heng, he was no exception. After the matter was over, he went to cultivate in seclusion. "This time, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip again. It's nothing. Now that our two sects have formed an alliance, we should advance and retreat together. If Venerable Zhu Zhao can recover, the pressure we face will be much less. After all, Venerable Zhu Zhao is one of the top 10 supreme experts. His deterrence is much stronger than ordinary divine realm experts like us. If Venerable Zhu Zhao is here, forces like the Divine Ghost sect will not dare to have any ideas about Venerable Master Firmament. If Venerable Zhu Zhao is truly angered, he can attack the Divine Ghost sect's mountain gate alone and break the Samsara wheel formation guarded by 3 divine realm experts." Swordmaster Bai Heng smiled and stroked his beautiful hair. Xinghui's expression changed slightly. "I've seen the Samsara wheel formation before. It's a powerful formation through and through. If there are 3 divine realm experts guarding it, I'm afraid that even if there are twice as many divine realm experts attacking it, they won't be able to do anything. Venerable Zhu Zhao alone has the power to break the Divine Ghost sect's Samsara wheel formation." "Xinghui, although you now have the battle strength of a divine realm expert, you still don't understand the division between strong and weak divine realm experts, right?" Xinghui nodded. "In fact, if we want to divide the strength of divine realm experts, we can mainly divide them into 4 categories. The first category is like True God of Suffering, Constellation Divine King, Ruthless Divine King, and ordinary divine realm experts like Sword Master Changhong of our White Rainbow Sword sect. You should already have an understanding of their strength." Xinghui nodded. "The second category refers to those divine realm experts who have powerful divine weapons. The so-called powerful divine weapons usually refer to existences above the 16th level. Venerable Master Firmament of Firmament, Emperor Yaoyang of Eternity, and Venerable Master Kongming of All Saints all belong to this category. A divine realm expert of this level has no problem suppressing a divine realm expert of the first level. Sometimes, one divine realm expert can barely be used as 2 ordinary divine realm experts. It seems that Sword Master by Hung belongs to the third category. Xinghui smiled. In fact, I was able to be in this category mainly because of my age. What about now? Sword Master by Hung smiled. I can't always stay where I am, can I? I have never really seen Sword Master by Hung use your full strength. Why don't you let me see it? Oh, you want to see my full strength? Sword Master by Hung looked curiously at Xinghui. The third category of Divine Realm experts may be a little weaker than the strongest experts in the Divine Realm, but against ordinary Divine Realm experts, they can barely fight 1 against 3. If they encounter opponents who are more restrained, they can fight 1 against 4, or even hold back 5. You mainly cultivate the bloodline of the Golden Crow, and fire attribute cultivation methods are less harmful to me. That is to say, you are one of the practitioners who are restrained by me. Do you really want to try? Of course. Xinghui nodded slightly. Although I mainly cultivate the bloodline of the Golden Crow, I have now walked out of the shackles of the bloodline of the Golden Crow. I personally feel that in terms of combat power, I should not be as simple as an ordinary Divine Realm expert. As for what level I have reached, I'm not very clear. If not for the fact that the esteemed Zhu Zhao is severely injured and unconscious, I would even ask the esteemed Zhu Zhao to give me some pointers. The Master of Sword by Hung smiled and said, "You are very confident. You have to know that the 10 most powerful cultivators are divided into strong and weak ones. The Master of Zhu Zhao is ranked 4th among the 10 most powerful cultivators, so you can't look at him normally. If it was only the Holy Lord of the Bottomless Abyss who is ranked 10th among the 10 most powerful cultivators, or the Jade Emperor, Holy Man, who is ranked 9th among the 10 most powerful cultivators, I might be able to fight them with my current abilities. They might be able to defeat me, but it would be a Pyrrhic victory. However, the Master of Zhu Zhao is so powerful that he has surpassed the limits of the divine state. Not only does he possess the most powerful Abhijna, he also possesses the most powerful divine items, and he even possesses the Chaos level. At this point, she added, "Do you know that before Chaos Holy Man, Emperor Tai Yi and Supreme God Gu Huang broke through to the Void Transformation stage, Master Zhu Zhao was once known as the top expert in the Divine Wilderness? The number 1 expert in the Divine Wilderness?" Xinghui was stunned. The esteemed Zhu Zhao was so famous in the past. That's right, he's the number 1 expert of the Divine Wilderness. His most astonishing achievement is that he once single-handedly killed his way into the 6 sacred sects. At that time, although the 6 sacred sects were not at their peak, they usually had 6 saints, but they also had 5 saint realm experts. 5 saints and the protective mountain array were nearly destroyed by esteemed Zhu Zhao alone. In the end, the 6 sacred sects were defeated by esteemed Zhu Zhao alone. Some people even began to worship esteemed Zhu Zhao. The most famous one is one of the core members of your celestial dome, esteemed 3 Wonders. He defeated an entire sect. Qing Su could not help but take a deep breath when he heard that. Don't you think that the heavenly axiom does not deliberately target other chaotic organizations, but only the Celestial Dome sect? Is it really because the Celestial Dome sect has fewer members and is easier to deal with? Wrong. The main reason is that the esteemed Zhu Zhao is too big of a threat. Even if the Divine Wilderness ordered the Divine Ghost sect to loot a burning house not long ago, they are probably still wary of the esteemed Zhu Zhao. Xinghui could not help but widen his eyes when he heard this. He would never have thought that the esteemed Zhu Zhao, who did not look like much, would have such an astonishing reputation in his heyday. Not long ago, you should also know that the heavenly axiom besieged Zhu Zhao. The 5 Tao Masters, Wu Li, Li Hin, Qing Wei, Tai Huang, and Wu Sei, are enough to fight against a supreme expert, especially the Wu Li Holy Man. In terms of divine weapons, chaos level, and other aspects, he is actually considered a 3rd type of divine sage. It is only because he is not good at fighting that he fell to the 2nd type. But with such a lineup, he still had to set up a trap before he dared to come out and besiege Zhu Zhao. From this point, you can see how tyrannical the esteemed Zhu Zhao is. If it is said that to besiege and kill us third-type divine sages requires 4 or 5 divine sages, and to besiege and kill the divine lord of the ruins of the end, and the Jade Emperor, Tao Master requires 6 or 7 divine sages. Then, to besiege and kill Zhu Zhao, without the battle strength equivalent to 10 divine sages, it is impossible to even think about it. Xing Hui nodded. The Wuli holy man was not good at fighting, but he was best at formations. He was the best formation master in the entire divine wilderness. The protective mountain formation of an ordinary sect could allow 3 divine sages to kill 6 divine sages, and its power would be doubled. It was similar to the protective mountain formation of the Heavenly Way, the divine wilderness, and the Eternity sect. Its power was even greater, and the trap that he set up would naturally be filled with killing formations. Even if the materials were limited, it would not be a problem for him. The Lihan Holy Man, the Qingwei Holy Man, the Tai Emperor Holy Man, and the Wu Sei Holy Man to double the power of the 5 divine sages. Furthermore, it was a sneak attack. As he thought of this, Xing Hui understood why the Zhu Zhao Exalted Cultivator failed miserably. At the same time, he also understood why the Zhu Zhao Exalted Cultivator fell into his trap so easily. He was too confident in his own power. The Zhu Zhao Exalted Cultivator needs some time to recover completely. If I can comprehend the sword stance during this period of time, I might be able to compete with the Zhu Zhao Exalted Cultivator again. But now, Xing Hui's gaze landed on Bai Heng again. I would still like to ask Bai Heng to enlighten me. All right, I'm also very curious about your limits. I'm also very curious about the power of the Supreme Abhijna. I'm afraid the Heaven Dome sect's training ground may not be able to withstand the 2 of us. How about we find a barren mountain and have another battle? There's a vast ancient forest 8,000 kilometers from here. It's quite suitable. Bai Heng was obviously more familiar with the Heaven Dome sect's training ground than Xing Hui. Then let's go. Everyone can guess which stage of the divine sages Xing Hui is now. Chapter 617. A day later, Xing Hui and Swordmaster Bai Heng reappeared outside the Sky Dome encampment. However, both of them seemed to be in a sorry state. Xing Hui's face still had a sword wound that had not completely healed, while Swordmaster Bai Heng no longer had his elegant image. His hair was in a mess. Both of them seemed to have changed into a new set of clothes, but for some unknown reason, they looked slightly wrinkled. This was definitely inconsistent with their status. Ever since I stepped into the transcendent realm, the word monster has accompanied me. However, I now realize that you are the true monster. Swordmaster Bai Heng looked at Xing Hui in front of him and recalled the battle not long ago. He smiled and said, "From today onwards, I can finally take the title of the strongest person of the younger generation in the divine wilderness with a clear conscience. You should keep the title of the strongest person of the younger generation. I can't bear it. You are completely qualified. You have to know that when I was your age, I wasn't even at the true energy realm. Age doesn't mean anything. No, age can mean many things. Just like the current top 10 strongest people. If they were not 1,000 years older than us, how could the title of strongest be held by them?" Xing Hui looked at Swordmaster Bai Heng and thought of the strength that Swordmaster Bai Heng had displayed. He nodded seriously and asked again, "You really haven't reached the level of the top 10 strongest people. Can a ranking of the top 10 strongest people be fake?" Swordmaster Bai Heng asked with a faint smile. About this, Xing Hui shook his head. However, he quickly thought of something and asked, "How long has it been since you used your full strength?" "Today is the day." After Swordmaster Bai Heng finished speaking, he looked at Xing Hui with some regret. "It's a pity. I finally felt that my cultivation was not bad, but the first time I used my full strength, I couldn't even defeat you. That's because you went easy on me, or you were cooperating with me. Otherwise, the outcome of the battle would have been different. A loss is a loss. I didn't calculate the existence of the backtrack technique. I was arrogant and wanted to attack you head-on. I wanted to forcefully defeat you and reap what I sowed. When Sword Master Bai Hung said this, his expression turned solemn. This battle has taught me a lesson. Never underestimate any opponent. Sing Hui shook his head. In reality, he knew that he was the one who had truly lost that battle. Sword Master Bai Hung had been attacking him the entire time, but in the end, he was still forced to use the backtrack technique to gain the upper hand and obtain victory. From this point alone, it was enough to prove that once a third-type divine being was serious, his strength was still not enough. Even if he had the backtrack technique, when facing a third-type divine being who was fully focused, it was still inevitable that he would be defeated. The only thing that made him suspicious was Sword Master Bai Hung really only considered a normal third-type saint? Pak Hui, you're here. When Sing Hui and Sword Master Bai Hung returned, Venerable Master Tsang Zhen immediately came over and said with a face full of joy, "This is good news. The Divine Ghost sect has already lowered their heads and is willing to redeem Wang Qicheng for 800 Taoist rhymes. What do you think? 800 Taoist rhymes?" When Sing Hui heard this, he was quite satisfied with the price and nodded slightly. "All right. The main thing is that it's really not appropriate for us to fall out with the Divine Ghost sect or the Divine Wilderness behind them. Otherwise, it's not impossible to extort a higher price. After all, this is a peak lawful embodiment of heaven and earth expert. Did you force out the innate Taoist rhymes from him? Of course. Wang Qicheng is an old hand and knows that after falling into our hands, the Divine Ghost sect's power will not be able to save him. Thus, he was very straightforward and did not spend too much effort to force out the innate Taoist rhymes. There are quite a few of them, and I think not only can it stabilize Zhu Zhao's injuries, it can also help him recover. If we're lucky, it might even wake him up." Master Tsang Zhen said with a smile. "That's for the best." When Sing Hui said this, he was somewhat curious. What exactly is the innate Taoist rhymes? The innate Taoist rhymes are not something. It's a type of Taoist rhymes, a type of Taoist rhymes. It's a strange existence that can only be felt with one's mind and true yuan. As for what it is exactly, I can't say. You'll know when you see it. As Master Tsang Zhen said this, he led Sing Hui inside. Inside the Sky Dome encampment, Master Tsang Zhen, Master Yuanri, and the two Golden Core Elders were busy with something. When they saw Sing Hui arrive, they just nodded at him. This is the innate Taoist rhymes, the innate Taoist rhymes that come from the divine beast Hunyuan. Master Tsang Zhen said to a piece of something that looked like a divine beast fur that they were busy with. Sing Hui looked at the piece of fur that was about 4 meters in diameter. He immediately felt that this piece of fur was extraordinary. Its extraordinariness did not come from its external appearance, but a kind of special existence. As Sing Hui separated a part of his mind to carefully sense it, he immediately realized that this piece of fur seemed to have a faint connection with the special rules of heaven and earth, causing the barrier between the two to disappear. This is the innate Taoist rhymes. The divine beast is the most unique life in heaven and earth. According to ancient legends, the divine beast is actually the manifestation of the rules of heaven and earth. Each divine beast represents a rule. Although this saying is just a rumor, it is actually quite reasonable. The innate Taoist rhymes are actually a characteristic or proof that the divine beast has been recognized by the rules of heaven and earth. Because of its divinity, when a cultivator can obtain the innate Taoist rhymes and refine them into his body, he will only have a trace of the real divine beast characteristics. Thus, he can be supported by the rules of heaven and earth. This kind of support spills out of his body and forms the power of a domain. Master Tsang Zhen paused. Many of the domains you have encountered so far are formed by the innate Taoist rhymes of the Kunpeng and Chaos. First, the 4 divine beasts of the Kunpeng, Chaos, Golden Crow, and Kailan are the most common in our world. Second, the danger of hunting the Kunpeng and Chaos is the lowest. The danger of hunting the Kunpeng and Chaos is the lowest. Sing Hui was a little surprised. It may be safe to hunt Chaos, but the Kunpeng is just difficult to hunt. In fact, as long as a perfect cage is set up, the counterattack of the Kuanpeng before its death is very difficult to cause fatal damage to a fully prepared divine realm giant. On the other hand, if a golden crow is forced to the end of its life and explodes all the power in its body, one careless mistake will lead to a complete annihilation. Therefore, the golden crow is the easiest to hunt, but the price is the highest. The Kuanpeng is the most difficult to hunt, but it is safer. In this case, the foundation of the domain formed by the innate Taoist rhymes of the Kuanpeng and chaos has become the mainstream of the cultivation world. No one hunts Kailan. The innate Taoist rhymes of the Kailan. So far, no one has mastered the ability to transform it into the domain origin. That is to say, the innate Taoist rhymes of some divine beasts are not enough for people to condense the domain origin. Zhongzhen esteemed being nodded. His eyes fell on the piece of fur processed by celestial being and the others, and he said, "That piece of fur is the essence of the chaos. It is because of the innate charm contained in that piece of fur that the divine beast chaos can erupt with the supreme power of a divine beast. It can turn itself into a piece of chaotic void and intervene between reality and illusion, so that it can be immune to the attacks of the magnates of the divine realm. Without that charm, it is equivalent to being the favored child of the law of chaos. It has been beaten down into an ordinary beast, and from then on, it has become ordinary." Xinghui also understood the importance of the innate Taoist rhymes of the divine beasts. It was no wonder that only by killing a divine beast could one obtain its innate Taoist rhymes. When any divine beast uses its talent, it will borrow the power of the innate Taoist rhymes. Therefore, you can judge whether it is the innate Taoist rhymes or not, or how much innate Taoist rhymes it contains. Just like the chaos in front of us, it obviously has only a small part of the innate Taoist rhymes. It is said that the top divine beasts, when breaking the shackles of life, need to refine the innate Taoist rhymes to every corner of their bodies, so that they can really become the master of the law and the manifestation of the law of heaven and earth. However, I have never seen such a level of existence in my life, so I don't know whether this is true or not. You will have a chance to see it in the future, Xinghui said. Master Zhongzhen nodded. After a while, he seemed to think of something and threw a token directly to Xinghui's hand, saying, "I heard that you have been collecting this thing recently. Here you are." "This is the token of the world of battle?" Xinghui looked at the token of the world of battle that Master Zhongzhen threw to him and couldn't help but be slightly stunned. The next moment, he hurriedly said, "A token of the world of battle is worth more than 100 Taoist rhymes." Before Xinghui finished his words, Master Zhongzhen impatiently interrupted him, saying, "Since I gave it to you, you should take it. You have a promising future. If you don't die, you will definitely be ranked among the top experts in the future. One day, you even have the hope to go overseas and kill divine beasts by yourself. If that day really comes, you should leave me more innate Taoist rhymes as a reward." Xinghui listened and nodded slightly, saying, "When I have the ability to kill divine beasts, I will definitely get enough innate Taoist rhymes for you to step into the divine realm." "Ha! Then I will wait for that day to come," Master Zhongzhen said, and waved his hand, saying, "Well, you have worked hard this time as well. Take a rest and study your superpowers. Try to reach the level where you can resonate with the Dharma as soon as possible. When you reach that step, come find me or Tsangqiang. At that time, maybe we can give you a hand and directly help you to break through to the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth." Xinghui listened and nodded seriously. After leaving the courtyard, Xinghui returned to his residence. On the way, he deliberately split his attention and went to the Hunyuan Chamber of Commerce in the Chaos Temple. He told Su Tong, Blazing Glory, and the others not to wait for the next wave of goods and directly sold the treasures from the Black Flame sect. The next day, Swordmaster Bai Hung came to bid farewell to Xinghui and invited Xinghui to live in the White Rainbow Sword sect. However, considering that there were no experts in Tsangqiang at the moment and that he had just offended the Ghost God sect, He did not go and stayed in Songqiong for safety reasons. Swordmaster Bai Hong did not insist. After Swordmaster Bai Hong left, Xing Hui, who rarely had time to relax, could not help but look at the token of the realm of battle in his hand. If I want to improve my strength, I can only work on my physique, Sword of the Sun, and Sword Force. Among these three, the fastest way to improve my physique is to refine my physique. The only problem with refining my physique is the cultivation method after the real Dragon 9 transformations. Tossing the token of the realm of battle in his hand, Xing Hui could not help but feel a little tempted. Why don't I try my luck? This is an automatic update. Ryder should be on his way to Meizhou now. I hope everything goes well. Chapter 618. With a plan in mind, Xing Hui naturally did not wait any longer. In the War of Chaos, even a Stage 1 Son of Chaos on one side would be unharmed. With Xing Hui's current status, as soon as he gave the order, a Stage 1 Son of Chaos in the Green Netherworld realm was soon found in front of him. The Son of Chaos was willing to engage in the War of Chaos with him, and the price was just some resources to help him cultivate to the real element realm. I hope my luck is not too bad, Xing Hui muttered to himself. Then, he and the Green Netherworld realm cultivator, who was somewhat trembling in fear, each went to a different room and started the War of Chaos. When the War of Chaos started, in order to race against time, Xing Hui did not make any preparations. He was directly pulled by the power of the Order of the World of Battle, as if tearing the void, and projected onto the battlefield of the War of Chaos. A star, a desolate and dead star. No, it was not desolate and dead. At least, the terrible monsters in front of him, which were obviously no less powerful than Stage 4 or 5 dire beasts, were enough to tell the world that there were still signs of life on this star. It seems that the environment of this star is very harsh. Xing Hui took a little breath and immediately felt many harmful elements contained in the air. At this time, the terrible monsters in front of him, which were equivalent to Stage 4 or Stage 5 dire beasts, also noticed Xing Hui's aura and quickly rushed towards Xing Hui. However, before they could get close to Xing Hui, Xing Hui's blazing and majestic sword essence had burned their consciousness, and they died on the spot. Presently, the level of his spiritual force couldn't be compared to before. When his sword intent was at perfection and his spiritual force was at the 132nd level, there were very few people below the Golden Core realm who could withstand a single slash of his sword intent. Even those Golden Core realm experts with weak wills might have their souls annihilated by a single slash of his sword, let alone ferocious beasts and monsters with low intelligence. Let me see where there are enough humans to live. After Xing Hui swept away the threat of the monsters around him, he immediately activated the Wandering Spirit Control technique. His primordial spirit left his body and flew out quickly. However, not long after his primordial spirit flew out, he sensed that the sky was filled with a large amount of strange force fields and magnetic fields, which caused great damage to his primordial spirit. If it weren't for the fact that his spiritual power had reached level 132, his primordial spirit would have been weakened by the interference of these forces and might even have collapsed. Such a star. Xing Hui frowned. His primordial spirit continued to climb. After climbing less than 100,000 meters, the arc at the end of the horizon made him slightly stunned. Not a continent, but a planet. This discovery made Xing Hui fly even faster. Not long after, he had already rushed out of the troposphere of this star and directly arrived in the stratosphere. In the stratosphere, the magnetic field that was harmful to the primordial spirit had been greatly weakened, but it still existed. Xing Hui activated the aura observation technique and could clearly see dozens of gathering points with a large amount of life aura. However, apart from these gathering points, what surprised Xing Hui was that the outer space of this star was not empty at all. There were more than 10 space stations, each of which was hundreds of times larger than the space stations he had seen on Earth. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a small city. In these space stations, spaceships of different sizes traveled back and forth between space and the planet. From time to time, one could see large mechas that were similar to the Crimson Sun Demon God, but were several times larger than the Crimson Sun Demon God. In addition to these mecha and spaceships, not far from the periphery of the star, there was a huge arched door with a diameter of 300,000 meters. In the arched door, he faintly felt a deep and gloomy aura. Even when he looked at it in his primordial spirit form, he still felt a sense of fear. It's a technological star. It seems that the so-called technological star is the alchemy world that Jean Lien talked about. Seeing Hui looked at the spaceships and mecha that came and went with a trace of disappointment on his face. Perhaps Jean Lien would be extremely excited if he came to such a star, but to Tsing Hui, who needed the next few transformations of the True Dragon's 9 transformations, it was like a chicken rib. It was tasteless, but it would be a pity to throw it away. Since I'm already here, I'll go and take a look at the gathering points of life. The life waves on these life forms are not strong, but this special magnetic field that covers more than half of the star is very interesting. Tsing Hui withdrew his primordial spirit, stood up, and quickly went forward. Due to the limited strength of the projected body in this world, his running speed was not fast. In addition, he was wary of the strength of this world's science and technology, so he did not use sword kinesis flight. He maintained his running method and headed toward a human city less than 200 kilometers away. After traveling less than 10 kilometers, some subtle movements attracted Tsing Hui's attention. As Tsing Hui raised his head and looked, he immediately saw 6 mecha-like existences moving quickly in the wilderness, attacking the group of beasts that were around the 4th or 5th rank. Although these mecha could not be compared to the Scarlet Sun Demon God, their battle strength was extremely shocking. Tsing Hui estimated that the destructive power of each mecha was not below that of a prominent divine expert's battle body. If the drawback of a prominent divine expert's insufficient chi was taken into account, a mecha could be compared to a true energy realm cultivator. It seems that this world is not weak. Tsing Hui's expression was slightly grave. After the 6 mecha killed the beasts that were equivalent to the 4th or 5th rank, they did not leave. Instead, they quickly surrounded Tsing Hui. When Ching Su saw this, he could not help but be slightly stunned. He sensed his body and discovered that he had indeed used shadowless attention earlier. Even though his strength had been severely suppressed, logically speaking, no one should have noticed him. So why? Forget it. If I can't hide, then I can't hide. Tsing Hui stood up and looked directly at the mecha. Unregistered? There is no record of this person in the database. Walking alone in the middle of nowhere without a mecha? Isn't he afraid of being torn to pieces by these mutant beasts? Captain Purple Dragon, be careful. Those who can walk in the wilderness without the help of mecha are definitely not weak. The person in front of us may be a spirit master. Spirit master? That is the most honorable existence in our entire Shaya Empire. How could he appear on Obsidian Star with such a harsh environment? But you are right. It's not wrong to be careful. The mecha called Captain Purple Dragon communicated with his teammates, stepped forward, and said with a somewhat guarded tone, "Your Excellency, may I ask where you are from and why are you outside Obsidian Star City? Also, there is no information about you in the database. Can Your Excellency explain?" Tsing Hui looked at Purple Dragon in front of him. To his surprise, he could understand Purple Dragon's language. It was the same in the world that focused on body tempering, and it was the same in this technological world. This made him a little interested. It just so happens that I need someone to help me understand this world. So let's start with you guys. Tsing Hui's gaze swept across the 6 people. The bodies of these 6 people were very fragile and belonged to the mortal level. Even the strongest one was only at the awakening stage. It was not worth mentioning at all. As the sword intent in his spiritual world erupted, a powerful sword intent burst out, carrying a blazing power and blasted into the spiritual world of the 6 mecha pilots. Ah, a spirit master, a spirit master. No, not good. Damn it. As Tsing Hui released his sword intent, the 6 mecha pilots shouted at the same time. 2 of them fainted on the spot, and the other 2 only lasted for a second. However, Captain Purple Dragon and the female mecha pilot named Hunyuan surprised Xinghui. They actually blocked Xinghui's sword-intent bombardment. This spiritual strength is not weaker than that of a true energy stage powerhouse. Xinghui was a little surprised. Although the 2 of them survived his sword-intent bombardment, as his sword intent grew stronger, the 2 of them followed in the footsteps of the others and fainted. A spiritual strength of more than 70 levels? Also, he seemed to have used some special technique when blocking my sword intent. Xinghui was a little surprised. The strongest physical strength was only equivalent to the awakening stage, but the spiritual strength was comparable to the true energy stage. The difference of a whole realm? Could it be that the people in this world have a lot of experience in spiritual cultivation? With a hint of curiosity, Xinghui quickly came in front of the mechas. However, he clearly did not know how to open these mechas. After studying it for a while, he directly drew out the sky splitter and slashed down. He forcefully split these mechas that were about 8 meters tall apart and captured all the pilots inside. After that, he quickly headed towards a cave not far away from his spiritual senses. Qing Su had captured the 6 mecha pilots alive, but what he did not know was that after he had split open the cockpits of the 6 mecha and destroyed them, a message had been sent to Yaoyan City, which was less than 200 kilometers away, through the network. Very soon, a military base outside Yaoyan City began to sound the alarm. Mecha after mecha rose into the air rapidly, flying towards the location of the incident. In terms of numbers, there were actually 44 of them. 3 of them were much more powerful than the Mecha Zilong, Hunyuan, and the others were in, whether it was in terms of technology or presence. Xinghui led the 6 mecha pilots and quickly came to a hiding place that looked like a cave less than 30 kilometers away from the battlefield. He then threw the 6 people down. After throwing the 6 people down, Xinghui took the lead to wake up the captain, Zilong, who woke up, immediately noticed that he was pulled out of the mecha. Thinking of the vast and terrifying spiritual strength displayed by the person in front of him when he attacked him just now, Zilong's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. He forced himself to say, "I'm Zilong, the captain of the 2nd Squad of the 4th Squadron of the Shaya Empire's Obsidian Starbase. Greetings, Master. I didn't know that you were here, so I've offended you. Please forgive me." "Master?" Xinghui looked at Zilong in front of him and said calmly, "I only remember that an aircraft I was on malfunctioned and crashed. I can't remember anything else. Maybe there's some misunderstanding between us, but now I urgently need to recover my lost memories. Therefore, I need you to introduce me to all the common sense and basic things so that I can recover quickly. Do you understand?" Chapter 619. The aircraft we're on is malfunctioning. The captain of the mecha team, Liao Zilong, was slightly taken aback. He didn't remember any aircraft crashing in this part of space recently. However, considering that the aircraft of a spiritual power master must have an excellent anti-radar system, it was reasonable that their base's radar couldn't detect this master's aircraft. Thus, Liao Zilong hurriedly said, "Master, you've lost your memory. Do you want to regain your memory? Why don't we ask Master to follow us back to the base? Our base has extremely advanced technology and equipment. One of them is the Nest of Life healing pod that the Empire's Research Institute has just released to the market. It can definitely..." Before Liao Zilong could finish a sentence, a sword intent shot out from Xinghui's eyes. A blazing intent suddenly exploded, causing Liao Zilong's soul to feel as though it was being burned by fire. He screamed in pain. "Did I not make myself clear enough? I don't believe in healing pods. I only need you to use common sense and basic knowledge to stimulate my mind and see if you can help me regain my lost memory. If you can't answer me, then I'll ask the others. I believe that some of them will be able to answer my question." "Master, please don't be angry. Please don't be angry." Liao Zilong's forehead was covered in sweat from the pain. At the same time, he kept begging for mercy. After Tsing Hui retracted his sword intent, he panted and looked at Tsing Hui with a trace of fear in his eyes. I'll tell Master now, the part of the universe we're in is called the Cliff Universe. It's 396 light years in total. Are you joking with me? A universe is only 396 light years? Do you think that I'm easy to fool because I lost my memory and don't know anything about experimentation? Or do you really want to die? Tsing Hui said coldly. I'm innocent, Master, I'm innocent. What I said is absolutely true. There are detailed records in the Empire's history. If you don't believe me, please let me open my gadget and show you the information. Our universe is really only 396 light years. Liao Zilong suddenly said, Master, I'm wrong. Liao Zilong suddenly thought of something and said, Ah, I know why you misunderstood. What you saw is ancient history, and ancient history is different from real history. According to ancient history, the universe was indeed endless tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. However, there seemed to be a huge cosmic disaster, and the entire universe was torn apart and destroyed. Only our universe, which is 396 light years old, survived and floated in the vast universe. Until now, at the end of the universe, there's an unknown crack that stretches as far as the eye can see. Moreover, this crack is constantly devouring our universe. Moreover, it devours about 1/10 of a light year's border every year. Because this devouring is coming from all directions and the speed is gradually increasing, countless scholars have predicted that one day in the future, our entire universe will completely turn into dust and disappear into that destructive crack. Tens of thousands of years ago, or hundreds of thousands of years ago, the universe was torn apart by a large-scale disaster. Tsing Hui couldn't help but feel shocked when he heard this. A universe was torn apart, and only a fragment of 396 light years was left? What kind of apocalyptic catastrophe was this? Master, if you don't believe me, you can look up. Obsidian Star is less than 22 light years away from the crack at the end of the universe. The darkness that is so deep that you can't see it clearly is the crack at the end of the universe. If Master still doesn't believe me, you can use the Stargate of Obsidian Star to perform a space jump and go to the edge of the universe. However, the edge of the universe is too dangerous. If Master really wants to go there, you have to at least take the best warship. Tsing Hui raised his head. He didn't pay much attention to it before, but now he did feel that the starry sky above his head was quite abnormal. The stars only covered a small area, and further away was a deep darkness without any color. It was like a failed background wall, strange and terrifying. This universe, Ching Su sucked in a deep breath, but he did his best to maintain his composure. Go on. The Shaya Empire's territory, population, stars, and the branches of the organizations in this universe. It's all common sense. Just tell me what you know. Yes. Liao Zilong hurriedly nodded. These common sense things didn't violate military rules and wouldn't anger the mysterious master in front of him, so he naturally wouldn't hold back. Our universe originally belonged to a powerful top empire, but the entire universe was split from that top empire. That empire's rule over our universe naturally disappeared. Over time, there was a great war in the universe, but because of the crisis that humanity was facing, everyone united and formed the current Shaya Empire. The Obsidian Star we're on now is one of the many administrative planets of the Shaya Empire, but because it's close to the crack, the economy and prosperity of Obsidian Star have been declining year by year. The rich and powerful have all migrated to the capital, and the remaining are basically ordinary people. This world is really vast. Lin Yan muttered to himself. Tsing Hui had to admit that even though he had a God Realm cultivation base, he still wasn't enough in front of the colossus that was the Shaya Empire. A huge empire that could rule over a few hundred light years. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Master, in fact, you don't have to be so vigilant. Every mental strength master is the most precious treasure of the Shaya Empire. They are entrusted with the hope of leading the Xia Empire out of a hopeless situation. Therefore, the Empire has strict laws. Murdering a mental strength master is a serious crime. Therefore, if you're willing to return to the base with us, we will not only think of ways to heal your injuries and help you recover your memories, but we will also investigate the politicians who caused your spaceship to crash. Liao Zilong said carefully, entrusted with the hope of leading the Xia Empire out of a hopeless situation? What hope? Xing Hui asked. After all, the universe where Xia Empire is located was split from a powerful empire. According to the historical records before the split, there are still one or even several extraordinary realms above the legendary realm. We call them the mythical realm. Once you step into that realm, the great mythical realm can tear apart the layers of cracks at the end of the universe and lead our Xia Empire back to the great universe to avoid the fate of waiting for death day after day. Wait a minute, what legendary realm? What mythical realm? Liao Zilong looked at Qing Su and was startled. However, thinking that this master seemed to have lost his memory, he said, our Xia Empire divides spiritual ability practitioners into 12 levels. The first 9 levels are all spiritual ability users. Of course, since spiritual ability users are only one step away from spiritual ability masters, spiritual ability users are often called quasi-masters at the 9th level. After quasi-masters are spiritual ability users. Above that are spiritual ability users, and above that are spiritual ability users. Above that are spiritual ability users, and above that are spiritual ability users. Master, Saint, Legendary. Xing Hui listened to these levels. He didn't know if they corresponded to levels 1 to 12 for practitioners. As for the specifics, he estimated that he would only know if he really met those master-level people. Master, you should understand that our Xia Empire's universe is currently facing a doomsday-like fate. Although doomsday is still far away from us, and it may take hundreds or thousands of years for it to truly descend, but for the continuation of the Empire has no choice but to think of ways to cultivate those mythical existences as soon as possible. With the help of the mythical existence's strength that can shatter the void, they can lead us out of this hopeless situation. Currently, although the Empire is trying its best to protect the life and safety of the Spirit Masters and create a training environment for them, there are still only 3 legends in our Xia Empire, and the number of masters is not more than 10,000 people. Therefore, every master will receive the strictest protection in our Xia Empire. The safety of the masters cannot be persecuted in any way. Crush the void with their mental strength. Xing Hui's heart trembled. What kind of realm was that? Even if the vacuum crushing of this world was compared to the vacuum crushing of his world, it was enough to infer that the legends in this world were probably at the void realm, and the saints were at the domain realm. As for him, his mental strength was comparable to the domain realm, but because he hadn't condensed the domain yet, he was regarded as a mental strength master. Rumble, just as Xing Hui was learning bits and pieces of this world from Liao Zilong. A roar quickly came from all directions. Following Xing Hui's mental senses, he immediately sensed dozens of mechas quickly surrounded him. Not long after, a shout came from inside. Madman inside, listen up. Surrender immediately and come out, and we can still give you a way out. Otherwise, under the bombardment of the cannons, no matter who you are, only death awaits you. Liao Zilong's expression changed drastically when he heard the shouts outside. Even though mental strength masters were powerful and could wipe out all living beings within a radius of 10 kilometers or even dozens of kilometers, their physical bodies were extremely weak. Once the base bombarded this area, not to mention mental strength masters, even saint-level existences would only have a path of death. Thinking of the serious crime of killing a mental strength master, he hurriedly shouted, "Don't attack! Don't attack!" After saying that, he hurriedly turned to Xing Hui and begged, "Master, please let me out. I'll go talk to these people. As long as I tell them that you're a mental strength master, they definitely won't dare to disrespect you." Xing Hui frowned and looked at Liao Zilong in front of him. How do they find me? Every one of our Mecha Knights has a tracker. Hearing this, we instantly understood that he had miscalculated. The various methods in the world of science and technology were not something he could imagine. However, considering the lofty status of a mental strength master in this world, he hesitated for a moment before saying, "All right then, go out now. Don't play any tricks. Otherwise, you should know that it's only a matter of thought for me to catch all of you in one fell swoop. Please don't worry, Master. Even if you give me 10,000 guts, I wouldn't dare to offend a master." Thought you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.